Okay, so all praise to the Most High. Today's topic is called Apartheid Secret Revealed. We're still going where we're going to go over chapter 2. Okay, Apartheid Secret Revealed, chapter 2. So the topic of tonight is Moab, China. So all praise to the Most High. All praise. We're going to open up with the book of Genesis, chapter 11. Genesis, chapter 11, verse 27. Let's start there.
The book of Genesis, chapter 11, verse 27. Now these are the generations of Terah. Terah begat Abram, Nahor, and Haran begat Lot.
So now these are the sons that came out of Terah. You have Abram, Nahor, Haran, and Haran begat Lot. Lot is Abraham's nephew. Read verse 27 again.
Genesis chapter 11, verse 27.
Read.
Now these are the generations of Terah. Terah begat Abram, Nahor, and Haran begat Lot.
And Haran begat Lot. Jump down to verse 31.
Verse 31. And Terah took Abram his son, and Lot, the son of Haran, his son's son.
His nephew, okay? Because that's when the Lord said, listen, this is after Abraham's father, you understand? After Abraham's father is going to die later on, but at this point, he took his children, okay? He took his children and the nephew, Abraham's nephew as well. Okay, read.
And Sarai, his daughter-in-law, and his son Abram's wife.
Read.
And they went forth with them from Ur of the Chaldees to go into the land of Canaan. And they came unto Haran and dwelt there.
So now they came into Haran and dwelt there. Remember, it says to go into the land of Canaan, because the land of Canaan is the land that would be promised to our forefather Abraham. You understand? And to his seed after him. Okay, watch this. Give me the book of Psalms 105. We coming back here. Psalms 105. Psalms chapter 105. Let's start at verse 6. Start at verse 1. We're going to jump. Psalms 105 verse 1. Watch this.
Psalms chapter 105 verse 1. Oh, give thanks unto the Lord. Call upon his name. Make known his deeds among the people.
You see what he's saying? He says, oh, give thanks unto the Lord. Call upon his name. So who is he talking to? He's talking to us, the children of Israel. He says we must call upon the name of the Lord and make known his deeds among the people. Okay? Jump down to verse 6.
Verse 6. O ye seed of Abraham his servant.
Read.
Ye children of Jacob his chosen.
You see who the Lord chose? The children of Abraham that the Lord chose is the 12 tribes of Israel. Because I know in Christianity and all the banners of the Roman Catholic Church, which is all these other religions come out of, they teach spiritual Israel. Because spiritual Israel is a Roman Catholic doctrine. They push that thing from the Vatican, the World Council of Churches, and the National Council of Churches. You understand? Read that thing again. Verse 6.
Psalms chapter 105 verse 6.
Read.
O ye seed of Abraham his servant. Ye children of Jacob his chosen.
The reason why I'm bringing this up is because that doctrine that is pushed out in the earth, spiritual Israel, that's not biblical. Okay? You will never find anywhere in the Bible where the scripture talks about a spiritual Israel. The reason why I'm emphasizing this because that thing is pushed out into the earth to make everybody is qualified to receive the kingdom. That's not in the Bible. Read verse 6 one more again.
Psalms chapter 105 verse 6.
Read.
O ye seed of Abraham his servant. Ye children of Jacob his chosen.
Ye children of Jacob his chosen. Now watch this. Give me that in Leviticus 15 verse 16 just to understand what it means when it says ye seed of Abraham. Okay? Ye children of Jacob his chosen. So out of Abraham, Jacob is the one that was chosen. Which means out of Abraham came Isaac and Ishmael. The Lord chose Isaac. You understand? Isaac had two sons, Jacob and Esau. The Lord chose Jacob. And out of Jacob came the 12 tribes, which is us today. Okay? Leviticus 15 verse 16. Read that.
Leviticus chapter 15 verse 16.
Read.
And if any man's seed of copulation go out from him, then he shall wash all his flesh in water and be unclean until the even.
So the man's seed of copulation, copulation means sex. So the man brings forth sperm, seed. That's what he's talking about. Read verse 18 now.
Verse 18. The woman also with whom the man shall lie with, seed of copulation.
You see that thing? It says the woman also whom man shall lie with, seed of copulation. So men will lie with women and produce seed of copulation into the woman. Read.
They shall both bathe themselves in water and be unclean until the even.
So now let's go to Psalms 105 verse 6 again.
Psalms chapter 105 verse 6.
Mm-hmm.
O ye seed of Abraham his servant, ye children of Jacob his chosen.
Ye children of Jacob his chosen. So now what we're reading is we're understanding that is through your seed, your sperm. There's no spiritual Israel. No. It's the children of Israel according to the flesh, according to sex, bloodline. You understand? Now, watch this. Isaiah 41 verse 8. Because Isaiah mentions the same thing over and over because what? In the lands of our slavery, our enemies will give our teachers lies to confuse the black man and the black woman. Isaiah 41 verse 8. Watch this.
Isaiah chapter 51 verse 8.
No, 41 verse 8.
Isaiah chapter 41 verse 8.
Read.
But thou, Israel, art my servant,
Mm-hmm.
Jacob, whom I have chosen, the seed of Abraham, my friend.
You see that thing? Isaiah is saying the same thing that we just read in the book of Psalms. So the prophets, they all spoke the same thing. There was no such thing as a spiritual Israel because I'm emphasizing this of what the topic I'm going to go over. Watch this. Give me the book of Jeremiah 31. Okay? Jeremiah chapter 31 and verse 31. Jeremiah 31 verse 31.
Jeremiah chapter 31 verse 31.
Mm-hmm.
Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel
Mm-hmm.
and with the house of Judah.
You see that thing? A new covenant is with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, meaning all 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. The so-called blacks, Bantus, Negroes, Hispanics, and Native American Indians. We make up the 12 tribes of Israel. Read.
Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in that day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt.
You see that thing? Because the great deliverance that happened in Egypt, it was only for the children of Israel. You understand? So that's why he's mentioning Egypt here. Because the same people that we were taken out of Egypt, you understand? When we walked to the wilderness in Gaza today, Gaza Strip, that's the wilderness. You understand? He's saying it's the same people that now the new covenant is for. You understand? Give me that in Hebrews chapter 9, verse 15. We're coming back here. Hebrews chapter 9, verse 15. Watch this.
Hebrews chapter 9, verse 16.
1-5. Hebrews 9, verse 15.
Hebrews chapter 9, verse 15.
Go ahead.
And for this cause, he is the mediator of the New Testament.
Let's talk about Christ. So Christ is the mediator of the New Testament. Go ahead.
That by means of death, for the redemption of the transgressions that we were under the first testament.
No. For the redemption of the transgressions that were under the first testament. Who was under the first testament? It says Christ dying, he was to redeem those that were under the first testament, who transgressed under the first testament. The first testament was not with everybody. The first testament was with the 12 tribes of Israel. So is the New Testament or the New Covenant. Read that again, verse 15.
Hebrews chapter 9, verse 15.
Read.
And for this cause, he is the mediator of the New Testament, that by means of death, for the redemption of the transgressions that were under the first testament,
Read.
They which are called might receive the promise of eternal inheritance.
You see that thing? They which are called might receive the promise of eternal inheritance. Who is called? You understand? Who is the called of the Lord? The 12 tribes of Israel. You understand? That's the chosen of the Lord. So the new covenant as well as the old only pertains to the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel. Okay, let's go back. There's no spiritual Israel in there. Go back to Jeremiah 31 now. Verse 32 again.
Jeremiah 31, verse 32.
Mm.
Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in that day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt,
Read.
which my covenant they break,
Mm-hmm.
although I was an husband unto them, said the Lord.
You see that thing? So now what I want to show you is that, keep going, read verse 33.
Verse 33. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel.
This shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel. Not spiritual Israel. No, the house of Israel. Physical people, okay, that would go through slavery, colonization, forced migration, and the slave trade, being sold, living in the ghettos, always at the bottom, you understand, filling up the prisons, high rate of STDs, abortion, single parent household, baby mama, baby daddy, you understand? Nyaupe is rampant among us. Okay? So these are the things that will happen to the children of Israel for breaking the commandments. Read.
After those days, saith the Lord, I will put my law in their inward parts, and write it in their hearts,
Read.
and will be their God, and they shall be my people.
That's when the Lord returns. Because right now the laws of God is not in our minds yet. It's not engraved in our minds. We're now starting to learn how to observe the laws of God and how to be disciplined in keeping God's commandments. You understand? Now jump down to verse 35. Watch this.
Verse 35. Thus saith the Lord, which giveth the sun for a light by day,
Read.
and the ordinances of the moon and of the stars for a light by night.
Come on.
Which divideth the sea when the waves thereof roar. The Lord of hosts is his name.
So now these ordinances is making the sun that gives light by day, and the ordinances of the moon, on of the stars for a light by night. So the sun, the moon, and the stars, you understand, and the waves of the sea and so forth. Watch this. Is gonna give you a similitude regarding the children of Israel, because spiritual Israel, the doctrine behind it is that God is no longer dealing with the children of Israel. The children of Israel are no more. They broke the commandments, so now God is dealing with everyone else. Let's see what the Bible is saying. We just proved it, but let's get some more. Keep going. Verse 36.
If those ordinances depart from before me, saith the Lord, then the seed of Israel also shall cease from being a nation before me forever.
You see what the Lord is saying? He says, if those ordinances depart from before me, meaning what? If the sun, the moon, and the stars, the seas, if they are no longer here on earth, you don't see those things anymore, or in the heaven above, the sun, moon, and stars, if those things disappear, it says also, the seed of Israel shall cease from being a nation before me forever. The sun and moon and stars, the oceans are still here, so the children of Israel are still here. Everybody understand that?
Yes, sir.
Hello? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now let's go back to the book of Psalms now. Psalms 105, verse 6 again.
Psalms chapter 105, verse 6.
Read.
Remember his, verse 6. O ye seed of Abraham his servant, ye children of Jacob his chosen.
Jump down to verse 8.
Verse 8. He hath remembered his covenant forever, the word which he commanded to 1,000 generations.
So the covenant that the Lord remembered is what? Is the covenant that he made with our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and to his seed after him, which is us today. Go ahead.
Which covenant he made with Abraham and his oath unto Isaac.
You see that thing? The reason why King David is writing this thing in the spirit of Christ like this is because of what? What would happen in the last days? Because the Arabs, you understand, the Palestinians in our land, they say they are the chosen. But now David is being specific. He says, which covenant he made with Abraham. Abraham had what? Abraham had Isaac, Abraham had Ishmael, and after Sarah died, Abraham had who? Abraham married Keturah, and out of Keturah came 5 sons. So Abraham had many children, but there's one child that's of Abraham that the Lord was dealing with. That's Isaac. That is what we're reading here. You understand? Not Ishmael, Isaac. Read.
And confirmed the same unto Jacob for a law.
You see that thing?
And
And hold on. And confirmed the same unto Jacob for a law. So Jacob came out of who? He came out of Isaac or Rebekah through Isaac. But Isaac had two sons, Jacob and Esau. Esau, the father of the white people of today, Jacob, the father of the black man today. So he says he chose Jacob. Okay, go ahead.
And to Israel for an everlasting covenant.
Read verse 10 again.
Psalm chapter 105 verse 10.
Read.
And confirmed the same unto Jacob for a law.
Mm-hmm.
And to Israel for an everlasting covenant.
And to Israel for an everlasting covenant. So the covenant is for Israel, is for who? The children of Israel, the seed of Abraham, which is who? Isaac, and then out of Isaac came Jacob, then came the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay, read on, verse 11.
Saying, unto thee will I give the land of Canaan, the lot of your inheritance.
You see that thing? It says, unto thee will I give the land of Canaan, the lot of your inheritance. Guess what? When we came out of Egypt, we were 40 years in the wilderness. Where did we go after that? We entered into the promised land, the land of Canaan. During the conquest of Moses, when we were destroying the Amorites, during the conquest of Joshua, when we were destroying the Canaanites and the Amorites, you understand, to keep them out of the land so we can get the land for ourselves, as it was promised before to Abraham. Okay? Now, watch this. Let's go back to Genesis now. Genesis chapter 11, verse 31. Once again.
Genesis chapter 11, verse 31.
Read.
And Terah took Abram his son, and Lot, the son of Haran, his son's son, and Sarai his daughter-in-law, his son Abram's wife. And they went forth with them from Ur of the Chaldees, to go into the land of Canaan.
To go into the land of Canaan. To go into the land of Canaan. That's what we read in Psalm 105. Read.
And they came unto Haran and dwelt there.
So now, what I'm showing you here is that if our forefather, Abraham's nephew, Lot. Okay? Abraham's nephew, Lot. Now, this what we're reading here, these are the forefathers that we're reading about here, they are coming out of Shem. This is Shem's line. Okay? Go to Genesis 10, verse 1.
Genesis chapter 10, verse 1.
Read.
Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And unto them were sons born after the flood.
And to them were sons born after the flood. Now give me Genesis chapter 11, verse 10.
Genesis chapter 11, verse 10.
Go ahead.
These are the generations of Shem. Shem was 100 years old and begat Arphaxad 2 years after the flood.
Jump down to verse 12.
Verse 12. And Arphaxad lived 35 years and begat Salah.
Jump down to verse 14. I'm giving you the lineage that comes out of Shem. I'm tracing the lineage from Shem all the way up to us. Read.
Verse 14. And Salah lived 30 years and begat Eber.
Eber is a Hebrew, that's where the word Hebrew comes from, meaning from the past, okay, or of the past. Jump down to verse 16 now.
Verse 16. And Eber lived 34 years and begat Peleg.
Now this is the lineage, this is the chosen seed of Shem that God is dealing with. Okay, read. Jump down to verse 18 now.
Verse 18. And Peleg lived 30 years and begat Reu.
Jump down to verse 20.
Verse 20. And Reu lived 32 years and begat Serug.
Jump down to verse 22.
Verse 22. And Serug lived 30 years and begat Nahor.
Verse 24 now. Watch this.
And Nahor lived 29 years and begat Terah.
And begat Terah. Verse 26. Now, come on.
And Terah lived 70 years and begat Abram, Nahor, and Haran.
You see that thing? So Terah had 3 sons, Abram, Nahor, and Haran. Out of these three sons, who did the Lord choose? He chose Abraham. You see that thing? And then out of Abraham, he chose Isaac. Out of Isaac, he chose Jacob, which he gave birth to what? The 12 sons. You understand? And one daughter, which is Dinah. Okay? So what I'm showing you here is the lineage of Shem. Guess what? Now watch this. Haran gave birth to who? He begat Lot. So Lot he comes out of Shem. Lot was a Shemite. You understand? He's Semitic. Because today when you say the white people in our land calling themselves Jewish, when we say the Bible says they are not the real Jews, you know what they say? They say you are anti-Semitic, meaning you are against the children of Shem. But we are Semitic. You understand? There's many Shemitic families. The Arabs are Shemitic. You understand? The Chinese are Shemitic, which is what we're going to go over. There's a lot of Shemitic families. But the thing is, out of the Shem line, there's a specific seed that God is always dealing with. You understand? Which is us today. Watch this. Give me Genesis 14 verse 12 now. Genesis 14 verse 12.
Genesis chapter 14 verse 12.
Read.
And they took Lot, Abram's brother's son, who dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and departed.
Because this is when the four kings, they made war. They took Abram's nephew, which is Lot, when they were waging war. So Lot was part of the captives that was taken by these five kings. You understand? So because there was four kings against five. So what happened was that the four kings, they won, and when they invaded the land of Sodom and all of that, guess what they did? They also took Lot. Okay, read that again, verse 12.
Genesis chapter 14 verse 12. And they took Lot, Abram's brother's son, and dwelt in Sodom, and his goods, and departed.
Now give me now Genesis 19 verse 1. Genesis chapter 19 verse 1.
Genesis chapter 19 verse 1.
Read.
And they came two angels to Sodom at even. And Lot sat in the gate of Sodom. And Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them. And he bowed himself with his face toward the ground.
So now Lot is seeing these two angels, okay? He's seeing the two angels and he bowed himself to the ground. Now watch this. Give me the book of Ezekiel chapter 1, okay? Let's see the color of the angels, what they look like. Ezekiel 1, verse 7.
Ezekiel chapter 1 verse 7.
Read.
And their feet were straight feet. And the sole of their feet was like the sole of a calf's foot.
Read.
And they sparkled like the color of burnished brass.
You see what thing? It says now the appearance, it says they sparkled like the color of burnished brass. Burnished brass is brass burned in a furnace. Brass is brown. When you burn it, it turns black. So it's letting you know that the angels are black. Unlike the pictures of Michelangelo, when you see white baby angels with wings at the back, you know, with the guitars in their hands, that's not biblical. You know, that's Greek mythology. Okay? Go back to Genesis 19, verse 1.
Genesis chapter 19, verse 1.
Read.
And there came two angels to Sodom at even. And Lot sat in the gate of Sodom. And Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them. And he bowed himself with his face toward the ground.
Because what was going, Sodom was about to get destroyed. So now the Lord sent the angels to Sodom to speak to Lot, so that Lot can be delivered out of the city of Sodom before the Lord destroys it. You understand? Sodom was one of the 5 cities, Sodom and Gomorrah and the other 3. But Sodom and Gomorrah was the capital at that time. Jump down to verse 8.
Verse 8. Behold now, I have 2 daughters which have not known man.
Read.
Let me, I pray you, bring them out unto you, and do ye to them as is good in your eyes. Only unto these men do nothing, for therefore came they under the shadow of my roof.
So now at this point, the men of Sodom, they wanted to sleep with the angels. That was what was going on here. That's how desperate the situation was. So much so that they wanted to sleep with the angels. So Lord is saying, listen, instead of dealing with the angels, deal with my daughters instead, like men would deal with women. Okay? Jump down to verse 24 now.
Verse 24. Then the Lord rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven.
Because that's how America is going to get destroyed, with thermonuclear destruction. Just as Sodom was destroyed with fire and brimstone from heaven, guess what? America is going to be destroyed just like that. Okay, read that again.
Genesis chapter 19, verse 24.
Read.
Then the Lord rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven.
Now watch this. Give me Isaiah. Let me see if I want to just touch on that now that I said it. Give me Isaiah chapter. Not in my notes, so just give me 1 second. I don't think that I read what it is. Give me 1 second. Okay, I'll find it. I'm not gonna find it right now. I'll find it later. Okay, give me, jump down, read verse 24 again. We're gonna read down. I'll find it. Genesis chapter 19, verse 24. Read that.
Genesis chapter 19, verse 24. Then the Lord rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven.
Read.
And he overthrew those cities, and all the plain, and all the inhabitants of the cities, and that which grew upon the ground.
Read.
But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt.
Because she did not believe. Okay? Watch this. Give me Wisdom of Solomon chapter 10. Okay? Wisdom of Solomon chapter 10 and verse in the Apocrypha. Wisdom of Solomon chapter 10 and verse, let's start at verse 6. Wisdom of Solomon 10 verse 6. Read that.
Wisdom of Solomon chapter 10 verse 6. When the ungodly perished.
When the ungodly perished, he's going to tell who the ungodly was. Read.
When the ungodly perished, she delivered the righteous man.
Read, that's Lot. Come on.
Who fled from the fire which fell down upon the 5 cities.
Upon the 5 cities, but Sodom and Gomorrah was the capital. Read.
Of whose wickedness even to this day, the wasteland that smoketh is a testimony.
Go ahead.
And plants bearing fruit that never came to ripeness.
Go ahead.
And a standing pillar of salt is a monument of an unbelieving soul.
Because when it rained fire and brimstone, Lot's wife was turned into salt, and her pillar is still standing until this day. If you Google Lot's wife, you will see it as a standing pillar of salt, as a monument of an unbelieving soul. You understand? Go back to Genesis now, chapter 19, verse 26 again.
Genesis chapter 19, verse 26.
Read.
But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt.
Jump down to verse 29 now.
Verse 29. And it came to pass, when God destroyed the cities of the plain, that God remembered Abraham, and he sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow, when he overthrew the cities in the which Lot dwelt.
Because Lot dwelt in the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay, the proof of that is in Genesis chapter, get Genesis 12, Genesis chapter 12 and verse 10.
Genesis chapter 12 verse 10. And there was a famine in the land.
No,
and Abram,
I'm sorry. Genesis 13. Genesis 13 verse 10.
Genesis chapter 13 verse 10. And Lot lifted up his eyes, and behold, all the plain of Jordan, that it was well watered every way, before the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, even as the garden of the Lord, like the land of Egypt, as thou comest unto Zoar.
So now the subject matter is about what? Is about Sodom and Gomorrah, okay? When now Abraham and Lot had to divide land. You take the right, I'll take the left. You understand? And vice versa. So that there's no strife between them. Jump down to read verse 8 now. Go ahead.
Genesis 13 verse 8. And Abraham said unto Lot, let there be no strife, I pray thee, between me and thee, and between my herdmen and thy herdmen, for we be brethren.
Because we are brothers. Jump down to verse 11 now. Come on.
Verse 11. Then Lot chose him all the plain of Jordan, and Lot journeyed east, and they separated themselves the one from the other.
So now they separated from one another. Go ahead.
Abram dwelt in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelt in the cities of the plain, and pitched his tent towards Sodom.
You see that thing? He pitched his tent towards Sodom. So Lot dwelt in Sodom. When he says towards Sodom, means in the land of Sodom. Genesis chapter 14 verse 12 tells you that. Read that again. Genesis 14 verse 12. Just to prove that Lot dwelt in Sodom. So when it says he pitched his tent towards Sodom, he's actually talking about that he was dwelling in Sodom. This is the proof right here. Read that. Genesis 14 verse 12.
Genesis chapter 14 verse 12.
Read.
And they took Lot, Abram's brother's son, who dwelt in Sodom. Who dwelt in Sodom.
He dwelt in Sodom. He dwelt in Sodom. Okay. Now go to Genesis 19, verse 29 once again.
Genesis 19, verse 29.
Read.
And it came to pass, when God destroyed the cities of the plain, that God remembered Abraham and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow. Read. When he overthrew the cities in the which Lot dwelt.
Come on.
And Lot went out of Zoar and dwelt in the mountain, and his two daughters with him, for he feared to dwell in Zoar, and he dwelt in a cave, he and his two daughters. So
now this is after the destruction. This is when Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed and the 5 cities. What happened is that the angels had to pull Lot out, and he left with his wife, okay, and his daughters. So as the Lord was bringing fire and brimstone upon the cities, Lot's wife, she looked back because her mind was still in Sodom, because Lot was a rich man. You understand? So she didn't want to let go of that lifestyle so that she can get delivered. You understand? So now, keep going. So he's got 2 daughters. The wife is dead. Okay, read.
Verse 31. And the firstborn said unto the younger, our father is old, and there is not a man in the earth to come unto us after the manner of all the earth.
So now you see what they're saying. So his 2 daughters said, listen, the world, the earth is destroyed and all of that, and it's just us and our father, because that's what they thought. That after Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed, the whole earth was destroyed. That's what they thought. Now watch this. Remember, Lot was a righteous man. You understand? He was Abraham's nephew. Abraham kept the commandments, so did he. Go ahead.
Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve the seed of our father.
So now you see, now they are coming up with an evil plan to deal with their father like that, which is something that is ought not to be done. Okay, that's why they had to get him drunk first. Now watch this. Give me the book of Leviticus, okay, chapter 18. Leviticus chapter 18 and verse 7. This is what the Lord commanded us that we ought not to.
Leviticus chapter 18 verse 7. The nakedness of thy father, or the nakedness of thy mother, shalt thou not uncover.
Read.
She is thy mother. Thou shalt not uncover her nakedness.
You see that thing? It says the nakedness of thy father. You understand? Thou shalt, it says, shalt thou not uncover. That's what they did. They uncovered their father's nakedness. Okay? Which is not something that's supposed to be done. It's against the law. It's incest. They're not supposed to do that. That's an abomination in the sight of the Lord. But they did it. That's why they had to get him drunk, because Lot was a righteous man. That's what we read in Wisdom of Solomon. Go back to Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 10, verse 6, so we don't lose that thought.
Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 10, verse 6.
Mm-hmm.
When the ungodly perished, she delivered the righteous man, who fled from the fire which fell down upon the 5 cities.
Is that she did what?
She delivered the righteous man.
You see that thing? She delivered the righteous man. Who's the righteous man? Lot. Lot was a righteous man. You understand? Give me that in Luke chapter 1, verse 6. Let's see what it means to be righteous.
Luke chapter 1, verse 6. And they were both righteous before God.
They were what?
Walking. And they were both righteous before God.
They were both righteous before God. Go ahead.
Walking in all the commandments and ordinances of the Lord blameless.
You see that thing? So Lot was righteous because he kept the commandments. And he understood that this is something that is not supposed to be done. Moreover, he taught his daughters that this is unacceptable, it's an abomination in the sight of God. But that's why they had to get him drunk. Okay, because Lot was a commandment-keeping brother. Okay, now go back to Genesis chapter 19. Okay, Genesis 19 and verse 32.
Genesis chapter 19, verse 32.
Read.
Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we shall lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father.
Verse 32.
Genesis chapter 19, verse 32.
Read.
Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father.
That we may preserve seed of our fathers. So they are not supposed to do this. Go ahead.
And they made their father drink wine that night. And the firstborn went in and lay with her father.
Read.
And he perceived not when she lay down, or when she arose.
You see that thing? So their father was completely out. Okay? So that's why they had to do this to him. Read on.
And it came to pass on the morrow that the firstborn said unto the younger, Behold, I lay yesternight with my father. Let us make him wine this night also, and go thou in, and lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father.
You see that thing? So the reason why they did this, so that they can preserve seed of their father, because they thought everybody on the earth was dead. So that's what they thought. They thought everybody on the earth is dead, so we need to preserve seed of our father. Read.
Verse 35. And they made their father drink wine that night also. And the younger arose and lay with him, and he perceived not when she lay down, nor when she arose.
Come on.
Thus were both the daughters of Lot with child by their father.
Read verse 36 again.
Genesis chapter 19, verse 36.
Go ahead.
Thus were both the daughters of Lot with child by their father.
It says, thus were both the daughters of Lot, they were impregnated by their father. Go ahead.
And the firstborn bare a son, and called his name Moab. The same is the father of the Moabites unto this day.
You see that thing? The same is the father of the Moabites unto this day, 2021. You understand? So now the firstborn was what? Was Moab. Okay, we're going to deal with that. Go ahead. Verse 37. No, verse 38.
Verse 38.
Read.
The younger, she also bare a son, and called his name Ben-Ami.
Read.
The same is the father of the children of Ammon unto this day.
So now out of those two daughters came Moab and Ammon. Moab and Ammon. So now let's see who are they today, Moab and Ammon. Okay. So bear with me. I'm going to share my screen. So when you look at the, read out the name of the magazine that you're looking at.
Life magazine.
What year was this?
May the 2nd, 1938.
Okay, May the 2nd, 1938. Okay. This is excerpts taken from the magazine. Okay. So read that title right there.
Vice President Garner.
No, the title now. Read that. Read the excerpt that was taken from the magazine. Read that.
Reprinted from the May and June 1938 issues of Destiny, the magazine of National Life.
The magazine of National Life. This is 1938. Now read the highlighted part.
Isaac, the son of Abraham, who was the uncle of Lot.
Who was the uncle of Lot. Read.
By this tree, worked out on page 18, you will see at once that Japan and China versus Ben-Ami and Moab of old.
Of what?
Of old.
Of old. So these are the ancient names for what today is called China and Japan. So Moab is China and Ammon is Japan. Okay, go ahead.
Versus Ben-Ami and Moab of old are of Shemitic origin.
They are of Shemitic origin. That's why we went to Genesis chapter 11 to show you that the children that comes out of Shem. That's why Haran, he beget Lot. These are the children that comes out of the lineage of Shem, particularly Terah. Terah beget Abraham, Nahor, and Haran, who beget Lot. So Lot is a Shemite. So out of Lot, with his two daughters, came Ammon and Moab, which is today China and Japan. Okay? Now read the next highlighted part.
Namely, that the Japanese are the children of Ammon.
You see that thing? Namely, that the Japanese are the children of Ammon. Okay, the scholars know this thing. The only people that are confused is us because we have not been allowed to read for so long. Now we can read now. You understand? Read the next highlighted part. Go ahead.
It is the report of a lecture delivered at Exeter Hall, London, on December the 12th, 1901.
Read.
And deals with the arguments drawn from history and prophecy, proving that China is Moab.
Woo! That's some heavy stuff right there. Proving that China is Moab. China is Moab. Okay, China is Moab. So I just wanted to just show that so we can see what the scriptures really is saying, so we can bring the Bible to life. Okay, together with historical text to line the Bible up. Okay, so now watch this. Give me the book of Numbers. Now that we've identified that Moab is China, because I'm going to deal with Moab today, just Moab for today. I'm going to deal with Ammon the other Sabbath. the Japanese, King Jampun, we're going to deal with them next week, Lord's will. Okay, give me Numbers 22, start at verse 1. Numbers chapter 22, verse 1. Because what I'm going over is we know about the transatlantic slave trade. Okay, we know about the sub-Saharan slave trade, which is also not talked about as much. You understand? Where the Arabs got together with the Hamites, you understand, to sell us to the white men, you understand, and to China and India. Okay, and then there's the Silk Road slave trade, which is under China and Japan, together with the Arabs. Okay, selling us to China and India, which is not the transatlantic, but the Indian Ocean slave trade. Okay, watch this. Give me the book of Numbers, chapter 22. We're going to start at verse 1. Numbers 22, verse 1. Now, this is when we was in the wilderness, okay? When now we started to conquer different lands with Moses, because we started to do that with Moses. And then when Moses died, Joshua took over, and then Joshua completed what Moses had started. You understand? Okay. Now, let's get that. Numbers 22, let's start at verse 1.
Numbers chapter 22, verse 1.
Read.
And the children of Israel set forward and pitched in the plains of Moab on this side Jordan by Jericho.
Now, watch this. Read verse 1 once again.
Numbers chapter 22, verse 1.
Mm-hmm.
And the children of Israel set forward and pitched in the plains of Moab on this side Jordan by Jericho.
So now, at this point, guess what we was doing? We was moving from different lands and conquering different lands so that what? So that because we are a tribe, we're a nation at this point. You understand? We're a nation. There's millions and millions of us upon the land now. We are in the wilderness, and now we are starting to what? We're starting to move around to take certain lands for ourselves, as the Lord promised. Now watch this. I'm going to show the map so we can see what we are reading about. Okay. You see when it says we pitched in the plains of Moab, and it says on this side Jordan by Jericho. Okay, now watch this. So I'm gonna just share my screen so you can see, as we're reading, you can see the visuals of what I'm going over. Okay. You let me know if you are seeing the screen. Anybody see the screen now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all praises. So now read Numbers 22, verse 1 again.
Numbers 22, verse 1.
Read.
And the children of Israel set forward and pitched in the plains of Moab on this side Jordan by Jericho.
Now you see what that's Jericho right there. This is the land, this is Moab, this is the Chinese. Okay. Now that's the kingdom of Judah, that's Ammon right there. So you see Jericho, that's Jordan. This is the Jordan River. Here, this is the Dead Sea. And this sea right here, when you go up, is called the Sea of Galilee. Okay, let me just scroll up so you can see. This is the Sea of Galilee right here. The Sea of Galilee right there. Okay, now read verse 1 again so we can understand where we at. Numbers 22, come on.
Numbers 22, verse 1.
Read.
And the children of Israel set forward and pitched in the plains of Moab on this side Jordan by Jericho.
You see that thing? On this side Jordan by Jericho. Now this is Jericho in the plains of Moab. These are the plains of Moab right here. You understand? These are the plains of Moab. That's Jericho right there. Okay. Now watch this. Give me Numbers chapter 32. We're going to start at verse 1. Numbers 32, verse 1.
Numbers chapter 32, verse 1.
Read.
Now the children of Reuben and the children of Gad had a very great multitude of cattle. And when they saw the land of Jazer and the land of Gilead, that behold, the place was a place for cattle.
So Gad and Reuben had a multitude of cattle. The Reuben today is the so-called Seminole Indians of today. Okay, Gad is the so-called Native Americans of today. The Native Americans of today, they are from the tribe of Gad. That's Gad right there. Okay,
And Reuben is the Seminole Indians of today. Now, what you want to notice is that Gad and Reuben had a lot of cattle. Now it's time for what? It's time for us to go and get the land. Gad and Reuben don't want to cross over to help the rest of the tribe get the land. Go ahead. Now, hold on. Let me see something. I just want to make sure that everybody can see. Yes. So just let me know if you can see the screen. Oh, I don't think you can see it. Let me share my screen again, because I want you to see how we was sitting upon the land. Okay, so you can see allotment of land. All right. Okay, so just let me know if you can see the screen. Can see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all praises. So now, okay, there we go. So what you're looking at here is, you see, says division of the promised land to the children of Israel. So you see there's Asher, Naphtali, Zebulun, Manasseh. Manasseh also crosses Jordan right there. Okay, you see Gad. Okay, Reuben, Gad and Reuben, the ones that had many cattle. Okay, you see the Dead Sea. And up there, the Sea of Galilee. This is Moab now. The Chinese. You see the Chinese are here. The Japanese are here. Okay, so this is how we were sitting upon the land with respect to the other nations that were outside, because we got the best land and everyone else get what was left. Okay, so now read verse 2, Numbers 32 verse 2 now.
Numbers chapter 32 verse 2.
Read.
The children of Gad and the children of Reuben came and spake unto Moses, and to Eleazar the priest, and unto the princes of the congregation, saying,
Read.
At Ataroth.
Araroth. These are cities. Okay, Araroth. Read on.
Ataroth and Dibon, and
what?
Jazer and Dibon.
Adaroth and Dibon. Watch this. Let me show you where Dibon is. These are the cities that we spoken of here. Okay. So read verse 2 again, so we can read verse 3 again, so we can see what we're looking at.
Numbers chapter 32 verse 3.
Read.
Adaroth and Dibon.
Dibon. You see where Dibon is? There's Dibon right there. Adaroth and Dibon. He's not mentioning, not all the cities that are mentioning that have been talked about here are listed on the map. But I'm trying to show you where Dibon was. Okay, this is Dibon right here. Okay, in the plains of Moab. Read.
Adaroth and Dibon, and Jazer, and Nimrah, and Heshbon, and Eleale, and Shebam, and Nebo, and Beon.
And beyond. Read on.
Even the country which the Lord smote before the congregation of Israel is a land for cattle, and thy servants have cattle.
So Gad and Reuben, they don't want to go and help their brethren get the rest of their allotment of land, because they are only thinking about themselves at this point. Read.
Wherefore said they, if we have found grace in thy sight, let this land be given unto thy servants for a possession, and bring us not over Jordan.
You see that thing? And bring us not over Jordan, because this is Jordan right here. So they didn't want to cross over Jordan to help the rest of the tribes get the land. You understand? They said, no, we don't want to cross over Jordan. We don't want to do that. So they were making excuses not to help the rest of their brethren. It was back then, so it is today. Today, when our brothers and sisters, when we go to the streets to teach, everybody is just busy, occupied in their own little life. They don't care about the nation. They only care about themselves. You understand? That's the spirit that was moving at this point. And Moses, he was mad as hell because of what was going on. You understand? And the Lord was angry with Israel. So I just wanted to touch on that so you can see the locations of what is being spoken of here. Okay, now Numbers 22, verse 2 now. We're still dealing with Moab. Don't forget the point now. I'm just, plotting a little bit of history so you can see.
Numbers chapter 22, verse 1.
Read.
And the children of Israel set forward and pitched in the plains of Moab on this side Jordan by Jericho.
Read.
And Balak, the son of Zippor, saw all that Israel had done to the Amorites.
So now, Balak is a what? Balak is a Moabite. We're gonna find out. We're gonna find that out in a couple of verses as we are going to be reading. Jump down to verse 4 so we can just get to know who Balak is. Okay, read verse 4.
Numbers chapter 22, verse 4.
Read.
And Moab said unto the elders of Midian, now shall this company lick up all that are round about us, as the ox licketh up the grass of the field.
Read.
And Balak the son of Zippor was king of the Moabites at that time.
You see that thing? So Balak was the king of the Moabites. So Balak was a Moabite and he was their king at that point. Meaning what? The Chinese of today. You understand? So now the reason why I'm touching on this is so that you can see that yes, the other nations, they enslaved us, they put us in slavery and colonized, took our land, destroyed our history and all of that. China is involved also. Because a lot of the times, yes, we deal with the white man. His turn is coming when I'm going to chapter X in the future. But right now, I just want to deal with those our enemies that we hardly ever speak about. Okay? Now watch this. Jump back up to verse 2. Read verse 2.
Numbers chapter 22, verse 2.
Go ahead.
And Balak the son of Zippor saw all that Israel had done to the Amorites.
So now this Moabite king, he saw what we did to the Amorites. Okay? Give me that in the book of Numbers 21, verse 1. Numbers chapter 21, verse 1.
Numbers chapter 21, verse 1.
Read.
And when King Arad, the Canaanite, which dwelt in the south, heard tell that Israel came by the way of the spies, then he fought against Israel and took some of them prisoners.
He took some of us prisoners because some of us was rebelling and revolting against Moses, and we went against the Father's commandment to go and want to conquer certain lands. The Lord said, you're not going to be successful. Okay, go ahead. Verse 2.
And Israel vowed a vow unto the Lord and said, if thou wilt indeed deliver this people into my hand, then I will utterly destroy their cities.
Now jump down to verse 21 now, because Balak is going to referencing what he saw, what we did to the Amorites when we are taking their land. And it was not supposed to go that way. But the Amorites, they had so much pride, you understand? They didn't want to do what? They did not want to yield to the Israelites when we were coming in. They didn't want to do that. So the Lord said, okay, you don't want to move like that? Kill them all. That's what the Lord was saying. So Balak was aware of this thing. Okay, so it put fear on him. Watch this. Verse 21. Go ahead.
Numbers chapter 21, verse 21.
Read.
And Israel sent messengers unto Sihon, king of the Amorites, saying,
Read.
let me pass through thy land. We will not turn into the fields or into the vineyards. We will not drink of the waters of the well, but we will go along by the king's highway until we be past thy borders.
So now we didn't want to dwell in the land of Moab. You understand? We didn't want to, the Lord said, because remember in Deuteronomy, when he's rehashing, he says, don't mess with them. Just let them do what they need to, but that's their land. So you're going to pass through, but they must allow you to pass through because we had the land that was promised to our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So now we are going after that. Okay, go ahead.
Verse 23. And Sihon would not suffer Israel to pass through his border.
You see that thing? He did not want to allow us to pass through. That's why it says did not suffer, meaning he did not want to allow us to pass through in peace. Read.
But Sihon gathered all his people together and went out against Israel into the wilderness. And he came to Jahaz and fought against Israel.
So he fought against us. Instead of just saying, you know what, okay, let me allow you to pass through, He didn't want to, he was just causing problems for no reason. Go ahead, watch this.
And Israel smote him with the edge of the sword.
You see what the Lord allowed us to do? The Lord says, says Israel smote him with the edge of the sword. So it wasn't just him, it was him and all his people. Read.
And Israel smote him with the edge of the sword.
Come on.
I lost my bearing, sir.
Okay, read verse 24 again. Numbers 21, 24.
Numbers chapter 21, verse 24.
Read.
And Israel smote him with the edge of the sword.
Come on.
And possessed his land from Arnon unto Jabbok.
Come on.
Even unto the children of Ammon.
Mm-hmm.
For the border of the children of Ammon was strong.
You see that thing? So we were destroying the Amorites even unto the children of Ammon. Okay, their border. We got to their border as well. Read on.
And Israel took all these cities. And Israel dwelt in the cities of the Amorites, in Heshbon, and in all the villages thereof.
You see that thing? Heshbon was on the map. Okay. So they forced our hand. We didn't want to do that. The Lord said all we wanted to do was just to pass through, but they didn't want to do that. But guess what? Remember, Ammon and Moab, they were neighboring cities. You understand? Remember, it's two brothers. You understand? Two brothers, they stay next to one another, and they see us coming into the land. You understand? And the Amorites were revolting. We destroyed them. We took their cities. So now Ammon is witnessing this thing. You understand? Guess what? Moab also is witnessing this thing. So now Moab wants to go with another tactic on how he wants to overthrow us. You understand? Now let's go back to Numbers 22. Numbers 22 and verse 2 again. Then we're going to read down.
Numbers chapter 22, verse 2.
Read.
And Balak, the son of Zippor, saw all that Israel had done to the Amorites.
Go ahead. That's what we just read in Numbers 21. Come on.
And Moab was so afraid of the people.
Read.
Because they were many. And Moab was distressed because of the children of Israel.
You see what happens when we are in our glory, brothers and sisters? We put the nations in fear. Just read that verse again. I don't want this verse to sink in. Read it again. Verse 3.
Numbers 22, verse 3.
Go ahead.
And Moab was so afraid of the people.
He says he was so afraid. He was very afraid of the people. Go ahead.
Because they were many. And Moab was distressed because of the children of Israel.
And Moab was distressed because of the children of Israel. So as we're waking up now in these last days, because remember, they took our history, you understand? They destroyed us mentally, spiritually, and physically. They destroyed our children. They destroyed our fathers and mothers. Now, now they are comfortable because we are destroyed. Because the majority of us as a nation was still in la la land, was still caught up with the issues, the evils of the world, the entertainment, you understand, and all of it, was still caught up with that. The majority of our people. But now the Most High God is waking us up. And as we are waking up, guess what's happening to these nations? The nations know our history. And because we don't know our history, guess what? That's when the nations were comfortable when we didn't know. Now as we're waking up to discover who we are, oh, praise to the Lord, the nations, they know our history, and they know that these people waking up, it means trouble for us. Because they're going to go into the scriptures to see really how things used to be and how things are supposed to be. You see that thing? So now that's why it says Moab was very, very afraid. He was distressed. We stressed him out. Okay, go ahead.
And Moab said unto the elders of Midian, Now shall this company lick up all that are round about us, as the ox licketh up the grass of the field.
Read.
And Balak, the son of Zippor, was king of the Moabites at that time.
So now he's saying it says to the elders of Midian. You understand? Watch this. Give me Psalms 83. I'm going to show you about that Midian, because Midian is also part of this. Okay. Psalms 83. We're going to read verse 2. Psalms 83 verse 2. Then we're going to jump.
Psalm chapter 83 verse 2.
Read.
For lo, thine enemies make a tumult,
Go ahead.
and they that hate thee have lifted up the head.
He says, our enemies, they make a tumult, meaning an angry gathering on how to overthrow and destroy us and to keep us destroyed. You understand? It says, and they that hate thee, they that hate God, have lifted up their head against the people of God, which is us today. Now jump down to verse 8.
Verse 8. Ashur also is joined with them. They have holpen the children of Lot, Selah.
So now Ashur is the Assyrians. Okay, jump down to verse 9. Read.
Verse 9. Do unto them as unto the Midianites.
You see that thing? It says, do unto them as unto the Midianites, because the Lord destroyed the Midianites. If you go, as we are going to be reading the book of Numbers, he destroyed them. So now he's mentioning the Midianites in this point. Why? Because guess what? Midian today, they also have joined. They are all the nations, they've come together against us. Read.
Verse 10. Which perished at Endor. They became as dung.
Read verse 9 again. Read the whole verse.
Psalm chapter 83, verse 9. Do unto them as unto the Midianites.
Read.
As to Sisera.
Read.
As to Sisera. As to Jabim at the brook of Kison.
Jump down to verse 18 now.
Verse 18.
No, read verse 17. You know what? Start at verse 16.
Verse 16. Fill their faces with shame, that they may seek thy name, O Lord.
Read.
Let them be confounded and troubled forever. Yea, let them be put to shame and perish.
You see what the Lord is saying now? These nations that have come against us, the nation of Israel, it says, fill their faces with shame, that they may seek thy name, O Lord. Meaning what? They're going to bow down to the King of Jacob. Read verse 17 again.
Psalm chapter 83, verse 17.
Read.
Let them be confounded and troubled forever.
Read.
Yea, let them be put to shame and perish.
Go ahead.
That men may know that thou, whose name alone is Jehovah, art the Most High over all the earth.
Because they're going to acknowledge him as the God of everything. They're going to acknowledge him as the Most High God. Okay? Now go back to where he was at now. Numbers 22. Okay? Numbers chapter 22 and verse... Read verse 5 now.
Numbers chapter 22, verse 5.
Go ahead.
He sent messengers, therefore, unto Balaam, the son of Beor, to Pethor, which is by the river of the land of the children of his people, to call him, saying, Behold, there is a people come out of Egypt. Behold, they cover the face of the earth, and they abide over against me.
You see that thing? They abide over against me. Remember, we just destroyed the Amorites. Now we are in the plains of Moab. And now we have occupied the cities of the Amorites. Now, Balak is seeing this thing. He's saying, listen, these people are adjacent to me now. You understand? Because of the fear. When we put the nations in fear, these are the things that they do to respond to the fear they have because of us. Okay? Read that again. Verse 6.
Numbers.
No,
22.
verse 5. Verse 5 again.
Numbers chapter 22, verse 5.
Read.
He sent messengers, therefore, unto Balaam, the son of Beor, to Pethor, which is by the river of the land of the children of his people, to call him, saying, Behold, there is a people come out of Egypt. Behold, they cover the face of the earth, and they abide over against me.
Go ahead.
Come now, therefore, I pray thee, curse me this people, for they are too mighty for me. Peradventure I shall prevail, that we may smite them, and that I may drive them out of the land. For I wot that he whom thou blessest is blessed, and he whom thou cursest is cursed.
So now Balak is going to make a deal with a witch called Balaam. You understand? So this is how the nations, this is one of the ways the nations respond when they are when they are fearful of us waking up. You understand? Today they are fearful of us waking up. Back then they were fearful. Remember, we was what? We was coming into our power. Remember, we are no longer slaves in Egypt now. We are starting to conquer lands as the Lord promised and commanded us. You understand? So the same fear we put to the nations back then, the Moabites, is the same fear now that we are putting unto them today as we are waking up now in these last days. Okay, go ahead.
Verse 7. And the elders of Moab and the elders of Midian departed with the rewards of divination in their hand. And they came unto Balaam and spake unto him the words of Balak.
Because what Balaam wanted, what does Balak wanted to do? Balak wanted to curse us. You understand? He says, curse me these people so we may overthrow them. You understand? Because there are too many. We must curse them so we can overthrow them. Witchcraft. You understand? That's the plot here going on. Today's witchcraft is what? The media, social media, television, entertainment, Christianity. You understand? Christianity is the worst drug on the market and is accessible to all. You understand? Nobody's getting arrested by this. Okay? The worst drug and the most accessible drug on the market is Christianity and politics, because they are two sides of the same coin. Okay? Read that again, verse 6. Read verse 6 again for me, because this is the plot. Read.
Numbers 22, verse 6.
Mm-hmm.
Come now, therefore, I pray thee, curse me this people, for they are too mighty for me. Peradventure I shall prevail, that
Okay,
we
I
may
need you to
smite.
put some power. Come on, put some power in your reading. Come on, bro.
Numbers 22, verse 6.
Go ahead.
Come now, therefore, I pray thee, curse me this people, for they are too mighty for me.
Read.
Peradventure I shall prevail, that we may smite them, and that I may drive them out of the land. For I wot that he whom thou blessest is blessed, and he whom thou cursest is cursed.
Read. Go ahead.
And the elders of Moab and the elders of Midian departed with the rewards of divination in their hand. And they came unto Balaam and spake unto him the words of Balak.
So now they wanted to, they speak, it says the words of the rewards of divination in their hands. Meaning what? We're going to pay you to curse Israel so we can overthrow them. Go ahead.
And he said unto them, lodge here this night, and I will bring you word again. And as the Lord shall speak unto me. And the princes of Moab abode with Balaam.
So they abode with Balaam, because he said, listen, the word of the Lord will come to me and I will tell you what needs to happen next. Okay, go ahead.
And God came unto Balaam and said, what men are these with thee?
He says, what men are these with thee? That's the Lord asking Balak now. Balaam. Read.
And Balaam said unto God, Balak, the son of Zippor, king of Moab, hath sent unto me, saying,
Read.
behold, there is a people come out of Egypt, which covereth the face of the earth.
That's
Come
some heavy
now.
stuff right there. Which covered the face of the earth, because we was a multitude when we came out of Egypt. Remember, we became a nation in Egypt and we became great, mighty, and populous. So imagine now when we're coming out of Egypt with that great deliverance of the Exodus. Even today is still spoken of. Okay, read.
Verse 10.
No.
Verse
Verse
11.
11 again.
Numbers 22, verse 11.
Read.
Behold, there is a people come out of Egypt, which covereth the face of the earth. Come now, curse me them. Peradventure, I shall be able to overcome them and drive them out.
You see that thing? That's the point. I shall be able to curse them and drive them out of this land. Read.
And God said unto Balaam, thou shalt not go with them. Thou shalt not curse the people, for they are blessed.
He says, you're not going to curse, you're not going to be able to curse these people because they are blessed. These people are blessed. Remember, the conversation that is going on here is the conversation between Balaam and the Most High. You understand? Go ahead.
Verse 13. And Balaam rose up in the morning and said unto the princes of Balak, Get you into your land, for the Lord refuseth to give me leave to go with you.
He says, the Lord is refusing for me to go with you, meaning get the hell out, go back to where you come from. Go ahead.
And the princes of Moab rose up, and they went unto Balak and said, Balaam refuseth to come with us.
Okay, read.
And Balak sent yet again princes more and more honorable than they.
Read.
And they came to Balaam and said to him, Thus saith Balak the son of Zippor, Let nothing, I pray thee, hinder thee from coming unto me.
Okay, stop right there.
The book of Numbers, chapter 22, verse 14. And the princes of Moab rose up, and they went unto Balak and said, Balaam refused to come with us.
Read.
And Balak sent yet again princes more and more honorable than they. And
Go ahead.
They came unto Balaam and said unto him, Thus said Balak the son of Zippor, Let nothing, I pray thee, hinder thee from coming unto me.
You see what he's saying? It says, I pray thee, hinder thee from coming unto thee. It says, let nothing, I pray thee, hinder thee from coming unto me. Go ahead.
For I will promote thee unto very great honor, and I will do whatsoever thou sayest unto me. Come, therefore, I pray thee, curse me this people.
So now Balak is saying, listen, because Balaam refused, remember what the Lord said to him. He said, no, don't curse these people because they are blessed. So now Balak is sending more people, you understand, with a bigger price. He's saying, listen, I'm going to give you great honor if you just do what I tell you. Curse me these people so I can overthrow them and drive them out the land. Read.
And Balaam answered and said unto the servants of Balak, If Balak would give me his house full of silver and gold, I cannot go beyond the word of the Lord my God, to do less or more.
So now Balaam had a price. Hold on. Balaam had a price. You understand? He says, what's the price? If you give me this, guess what I'm gonna do it, but only based on what the Lord says I cannot do. Go ahead.
19. Now, therefore, I pray you, tarry ye also this night, that I may know what the Lord will say unto me more.
Read.
And God came unto Balaam at night and said unto him, If the men come to call thee, rise up and go with them. But yet the word which I shall say unto thee, that shalt thou do.
So now, you see, this is where a lot of brothers I see, those that have read the book of Numbers, there's a couple of confusion here. It says, why is the Lord angry with Balaam for doing it when he told him to do it? Okay, go ahead. Watch this.
And Balaam rose up in the morning and saddled his ass and went with the princes of Moab.
He went with the Chinese. Go ahead.
And God's anger was kindled because he went. And the angel of the Lord stood in the way for an adversary against him. Now, when he was riding upon his ass, and his 2 servants were with him.
So now the Lord is angry with, hold on, the Lord is angry with Balaam now, because Balaam rose up in the morning and went. You understand? Watch this. This is the reason why the Lord was angry. Remember, Balaam, you understand? Balaam knows, because remember, Balaam, he knows about Israel. He knows about Israel. And the Balaam was talking with the Lord. So Balaam is fully aware of what's going on in terms of what the Lord wants, okay? How the Lord deals. He deals with the commandments and so forth. Now, watch this. Give me the book of Exodus, chapter 23, verse 8. Because Balaam, he wanted reward. He was saying, I'm going to do it, but pay me. Okay, watch this. Exodus 23 verse 8. Come on, read that.
The book of Exodus, chapter 23, verse 8.
Read.
And thou shalt take no gift, for the gift blindeth the wise and perverteth the words of the righteous.
You see that thing? It says, thou shalt take no gift, meaning a bribe, for the gift blinded the wise and perverted the words of the righteous. So, meaning what? What law was Balaam violating? Bribe, because he wanted a bribe to do this. You understand? He said, I'm going to do it at a price. Bribes, bribery. That's what the Lord was angry, because he's supposed to know better, and he didn't do better. That's why the Lord's anger was kindled against Balaam. Okay, now go back to Numbers 22. Numbers 22 and verse 22.
The book of Numbers, chapter 22, verse 22.
Read.
And God's anger was kindled because he went. And the angel of the Lord stood in the way for an adversary against him. Now he was riding upon his ass, and his two servants were with him.
Read.
And the ass saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way, and his sword drawn in his hand. And the ass turned aside out of the way and went into the field. And Balaam smote the ass to turn her into the way.
Because remember, Balaam went against God's commandments. You understand? He went anyway. That's why the Lord was angry. So when Balaam took his donkey to go with Balak's men, you understand, so that he can curse Israel, guess what? The Lord sent an angel in the way to block Balaam's journey. The donkey saw the angel standing with the sword drawn out. Balaam didn't see it. The Lord didn't open his eyes to see the angel standing in the front. Go ahead.
But the angel of the Lord stood in a path of the vineyards, a wall being on this side and a wall on that side.
Mm-hmm.
And when the ass saw the angel of the Lord, she thrust herself unto the wall and crushed Balaam's foot against the wall, and he smote her again.
Read.
And the angel of the Lord went further and stood in a narrow place where was no way to turn either to the right hand or to the left.
So now, remember now, what is happening is that the donkey now crushed Balaam's foot against the wall, because Balaam didn't want to read between the lines to see the signs of what's going on with the donkey now. Okay, now you can read the rest on your own. We're going to jump down to verse 36 now. Read verse 36.
The book of Numbers, 22, verse 36. Mm-hmm. And when Balak heard that Balaam was come, he went out to meet him unto a city of Moab, which is in the border of Ammon, which is in the uttermost coast.
So now remember, Balak says, when Balak heard that Balaam was come, you understand, he went to meet him. Now, because Balaam is coming, because he said, I'm going to do it at a price. You will pay me, I'm going to do this thing to curse Israel for you. Read.
And Balak said unto Balaam, and did I not earnestly send unto thee to call thee? Wherefore camest thou not unto me? Am I not able indeed to promote thee to honor?
Read.
And Balaam said unto Balak, Lo, I am come unto thee. Have I now any power at all to say anything? The word that God putteth in my mouth, that shall I speak.
He says, I'm going to speak what the Lord said I must speak. Go ahead.
And Balaam went with Balak, and they came unto Kejath Huzoth.
Read.
And Balak offered oxen and sheep, and said to Balaam and to the princes that were with him.
Read on.
And it came to pass on the morrow that Balak took Balaam and brought him up into the high places of Baal, that thence he might see the uttermost part of the people.
You see that thing? So now they want to sacrifice to perform this act of witchcraft in order to curse Israel, so that we can be driven out of the land. So the point I want to show you here is that, remember, we're dealing with Moab. Moab, when he saw Moab saw us rising up, because our people are scattered in China. You understand? You see black people in China. Yes, they ended up over there during the Silk Road slave trade, when they were sold by the Arabs and the Hamites to China and India. But what I want to show you is that when Balak saw the nation of Israel, when he saw our forefathers and foremothers in the wilderness, you understand, he saw men of war, guess what he did? His first instinct was to what? Was to perform an act of witchcraft against us. They did it back then, they are doing it today. Today they use science and technology to do it. That's why today you see all these iPhones, you know, the Androids. Just look where they were made in China, made in China, made in China. You understand? And the programs that run on these devices is to do what? Is to keep our people, our sons and daughters entertained. That's why now, even the young girls, young women, young men, they don't know how to take a book and read. The minute they open a book to read, they start to doze off. But when they are watching TV or they are on social media, they don't fall asleep on Facebook. They don't be slumbering while they are looking at posts on Facebook. No, it doesn't happen like that. But let them just open the Bible or any book about history and all of that. 5 minutes into the book, they are already slumbering. They want to sleep. What is that? The demon right there. You understand? That's the demon. It's called witchcraft, because witchcraft requires repetition. You have to do it over and over. So our people, what? Their people are under a spell. So right now, people are under that spell. You understand? Numbers 23 now. Numbers 23 verse 1.
The book of Numbers, chapter 23, verse 1.
Read.
And Balaam said unto Balak, build me here 7 altars, and prepare me here 7 oxen and 7 rams.
So now they want to prepare a sacrifice in order for them to curse Israel. Remember we read in the previous chapter. Okay, go ahead.
And Balak did as Balaam had spoken. And Balak and Balaam offered on every altar a bullock and a ram.
Read.
And Balaam said unto Balak, stand by thy burnt offering, and I will go. Peradventure the Lord will come to meet me, and whatsoever he showeth me, I will tell thee. And he went to an high place.
So now, remember, now they prepared the altar for sacrifices so that they can curse Israel. So now Balaam is saying, okay, let me go and inquire. Guess what's going on today? I'll bring it to today just for a second, because I'm still going to deal with that. You know, just examine today, right? You hear a lot of our people, they say, me, I'm into Buddhism. I'm not into Christianity, I'm into Buddhism. What is Buddhism? That's the religion of the Moabites. They worship Buddha. You understand? That fat man that is made of gold. People believe in that. You understand? So what is that called? That's witchcraft, because that's the worshiping of idols. You understand? That's idolatry, breaking the first commandment. Okay? Keep going. Read on.
And God made Balaam, and he said unto him, I have prepared 7 altars, and I have offered upon every altar a bullock and a ram.
Read.
And the Lord put a word in Balaam's mouth, and said, return unto Balak, and thus thou shalt speak.
So now the Lord, the Most High God, is putting his word in Balaam's mouth to go and speak to Balak. Okay, go ahead.
And he returned unto him, and lo, he stood by his burnt sacrifice, he and all the princes of Moab.
All the princes of Moab, meaning all the Chinese. Not one, all of them were in agreement to do this, to curse Israel. It was back then, so it is today. Okay, go ahead.
And he took up his parable and said, Balak, the king of Moab, hath brought me from Aram out of the mountains of the east, saying, come, curse me, Jacob, and come, defy Israel.
You see that thing? It says, come, curse me, Jacob, and defy Israel. You understand? This is the plan, the plot. We read the plot already, how it started in Numbers 22, verse 4 through 6, witchcraft. You understand? Now they put an altar together on how they're going to sacrifice, you understand, in order to make sure that this goes forth. Now the Lord intervened so that whatever Balaam is going to do is exactly what the Lord wants. Go ahead.
How shall I curse whom God hath not cursed?
You see that thing? How shall I curse whom God hath not cursed? Remember what we read in Numbers 22. I know some of you might have forgot. Give me Numbers 22 verse 12. Read that again. Numbers 22, verse 12.
The book of Numbers, chapter 22, verse 12.
Read.
And God said unto Balaam, thou shalt not go with them, and thou shalt not curse the people, for they are blessed.
You see that thing? Because they are blessed. You're not going to curse these people because they are blessed. Okay, go back to Numbers 23, verse 8 again.
The book of Numbers, chapter 23, verse 8.
Read.
How shall I curse whom God hath not cursed? Or how shall I defy whom the Lord hath not defied?
Read.
For from the top of the rocks I see him, and from the hills I behold him. Lo, the people shall dwell alone, and shall not be reckoned among the nations.
You see that thing? The people shall dwell alone. Now the Lord is showing Balaam what the Lord is going to do for Israel. You understand? Meaning whatever plan that Balak had plans is not going to happen. Okay, go ahead.
Who can count the dust of Jacob
and
the number of the fourth part of Israel?
Read.
Let me die the death of the righteous, and let my last end be like this, be like his.
Read. Be like his, meaning Jacob. Go ahead.
And let my last end be like his. And Balak said unto Balaam, what hast thou done unto me? I took thee to curse mine enemies.
My what?
And behold, I took thee to curse mine enemies.
You see what Balak is saying to Balaam? He says, I took thee to curse mine enemies. Because the Moabites, they are our enemies. And that's what he's saying right here. I took thee to curse mine enemies. Go ahead.
I took thee to curse mine enemies. And behold, thou hast blessed them altogether.
You see that thing? I took thee to curse mine enemies. And look what you have done. Now you have blessed them now. Because we are people that cannot be cursed. You understand? Right now, we are not cursed, we are not a cursed people, but we are living under the curses of breaking God's commandments. But naturally, we are not cursed. We are living under the judgments now because we broke the laws of God. You understand? But as we are coming out of the sins that we was in, we are coming back to the laws of God. You understand? Guess what's going to happen? Nobody will be able to curse us, whether with words, whether with actions, whatever they're planning to do is not going to happen. That is what we're reading here. Okay, go ahead.
And he answered and said, must I not take heed to speak that which the Lord had put in my mouth? And Balak said unto him, come, I pray thee, with me unto another place, from whence thou mayest see them. Thou shalt see but the uttermost part of them, and thou shalt not see them all, and curse me them from thence.
You see that thing? Read on.
And he brought him into a field of Zophim, to the top of Pisgah, and built 7 altars, and offered a bullock and a ram on every altar.
Read on.
And he said unto Balak, stand here by thy burnt offering while I meet the Lord yonder.
Read.
And the Lord made Balaam and put a word in his mouth and said, go again unto Balak and say thus.
Read.
And when he came to him, behold, he stood by his burnt offering, and the princes of Moab with him. And Balak said unto him, what had the Lord spoken?
So now he's acknowledging the Most High. He says, what has the Lord spoken now to you? Okay, go ahead.
And he took up his parable and said, rise up, Balak, and hear. Hearken unto me, thou son of Zippor. God is not a man that he should lie, neither the son of man that he should repent. Hath he said, shall he not do it? Or hath he spoken, shall he not make it good?
So now, remember, he says God is not a man that he should lie. Whatever the Lord says he's going to do, he's going to do it. And it's unfolding before the eyes of Balak. You understand? So it is today. I'm going to show you that. Read.
Behold, I have received commandments to bless, and he hath blessed, and I cannot reverse it.
You see what Balaam is saying? He says, I've received the commandments to bless. You understand? And I cannot reverse this thing. The Lord has spoken it, so it shall be done. Read.
He hath not beheld iniquity in Jacob.
Neither had... What verse you at? 21, okay, I read verse 21. Read verse 21 again.
The book of Numbers, chapter 23, verse 21.
Come
He
on.
hath not beheld iniquity in Jacob,
Read.
neither hath he seen perverseness in Israel.
Come on.
The Lord his God is with him, and the shout of a king is among them.
The shout of a king is among them. Who's the king? Christ. Go ahead.
God brought them out of Egypt. He had, as it were, the strength of a unicorn.
You see that the strength of a unicorn, meaning a unicorn is a rhinoceros. Unicorn is a rhino, meaning unicorn, unihorn, one horn. Okay? So when it says, as it were the strength of a unicorn, meaning the strength that the Lord delivered us out of the land of Egypt, it was as though it was the strength of a unicorn, of a rhinoceros. Read.
Surely there is no enchantment against Jacob.
You see what he's saying now? He's telling Balak now, he said, listen, surely, meaning it's a fact, there is no enchantment against Jacob, meaning these people cannot be cursed. You can't curse them. Okay? Read.
Neither is there any divination against Israel.
Remember, Balaam received the rewards of divination against us by Balak in Numbers 22. Read.
According to this time, it shall be said of Jacob and of Israel, what hath God wrought?
Whatever the Lord has said, it shall come to pass. We cannot be bewitched. Okay? The only time, the reason why you see our people today, they are under a spell, they are bewitched, is because of what? We departed from the laws of God. That's why. I'll give an example. Give me Galatians chapter 3, verse 1. Because the Apostle Paul, he spoke about this thing. He asked the question. And he told us the reason why we are bewitched as a nation now in the lands of our captivity. Okay? Galatians 3, verse 1. Read that.
The book of Galatians chapter 3, verse 1.
Read.
O foolish Galatians, who hath bewitched you, that ye should not obey the truth?
Go ahead.
Before whose eyes Jesus Christ hath been evidently set forth, crucified among you.
You see what the Apostle Paul is saying? He says, O foolish Galatians, who hath bewitched you that you should not obey the truth? The reason why, the only time when we get bewitched is when we don't obey the truth. Okay? Let's see who the Galatians are. Give me that in 1 Peter 1 and 1. 1 Peter. Let's see who are the Galatians. Okay?
First book of Peter, chapter 1, verse 1.
Read.
Peter, an apostle of Jesus Christ, to the strangers scattered throughout Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia.
Bithynia. These are the cities of Asia Minor. Okay? So the Apostle Peter was writing to the strangers that were scattered in these lands. Pontus, Galatia, Cappadocia, Asia, and Bithynia. So Galatia is what? Is a city in Greece, which the Apostle Paul is writing to that city in Greece. Who was scattered in those lands? Particularly Galatia was the strangers that the Apostle Peter is writing to. They were scattered in those lands. Next verse, we're going to know who those strangers are that are in Galatia. Read.
Elect according to the foreknowledge of God the Father.
You see that thing? He says the strangers that are scattered in those lands that he mentioned in verse 1, Galatia being one of them, it says these are the elect of God. Elect according to the foreknowledge of God the Father. Let's see who the elect is. Give me that in Isaiah 45. Let's see who is the elect. Okay? Read that. Isaiah 45 verse 4.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 45, verse 4.
Read.
For Jacob, my servant's sake.
So Jacob, it says, Jacob, my servant's sake. Go ahead.
And Israel, mine elect.
And what?
And Israel, mine elect.
And Israel, mine elect. So the elect that the Apostle Peter was writing to that were scattered in these lands, Galatia being one of them, was the children of Israel. You understand? Under the Greek captivity. Now watch this. Go back to where he was at now. Okay? Galatians 3 verse 1.
The book of Galatians chapter 3 verse 1.
Read.
O foolish Galatians, who hath bewitched you, that ye should not obey the truth,
You see that
before
thing?
whose
Oh, foolish Galatians, who hath bewitched you? Now we know who the Galatians are. They were the children of Israel scattered in Galatia. They were called Galatians. The same way today we are scattered in South Africa, we are called South Africans. But are we really South Africans? No. We are the children of Israel scattered in this land. That's why today we call ourselves South Africans. So when the Apostle Paul was writing to the Galatians, he was writing to the children of Israel scattered in those lands, one of them being Galatia. I'll give an example. Give me the book of Acts, okay? Give me Acts chapter 18. Acts chapter 18, we're going to read verse, Acts chapter 18. Acts chapter 18, read verse 1.
the book of Acts, chapter 18, verse 1.
Read.
After these things, Paul departed from Athens and
Athens.
came to.
He departed from Athens. Athens is a city in Greece. Read that again.
The book of Acts, chapter 18, verse 1. After these things, Paul departed from Athens and came to Corinth.
Now, Paul, this is the Apostle Paul now. If you want to understand the letters of Paul, you must read the book of Acts. So it says, Paul departed from Athens, which was a city in Greece. You understand? And it says he came to Corinth. Now jump down to verse 4. Okay, watch this.
The book of Acts, chapter 18, verse 4.
Read.
And he reasoned in the synagogue every Sabbath and persuaded the Jews and the Greeks.
You see that thing? It says, and he reasoned in the synagogues every Sabbath and persuaded the Jews and the Greeks. So are these white people the Greeks? No. It's the children of Israel scattered in Greece. So they were called Greeks. They took on what? Greek names and cultures and identities and nationalities. You understand? Jump down now. Remember, in Corinth was a synagogue of the Jews. So what were the Jews in Corinth called? Read verse 8 now. Watch this.
The book of Acts, chapter 18, verse 8.
Read.
And Crispus, the chief ruler of the synagogue, believed on the Lord with all his house. And many of the Corinthians.
And many of the what?
And many of the Corinthians.
You see where the Jews that was in Corinth, you see what that was called? Corinthians. The Jews in Corinth, they were called Corinthians. Where is Corinth? In Greece. Corinth is in Greece. So the Jews scattered in Corinth, they were called Corinthians. Read verse 8 again.
The book of Acts, chapter 18, verse 8. And Crispus, the chief ruler of the synagogue, believed on the Lord with all his house, and many of the Corinthians, hearing, believed and were baptized.
You see that thing? So now when we go back to Galatians 3, verse 1 again, now we understand now. So when you hear Galatians, it's not talking about white people. It's talking about the Jews that were scattered where? In Galatia. What was they called? Galatians. Galatians 3, verse 1 now.
The book of Galatians, chapter 3, verse 1.
Read.
O foolish Galatians, who hath bewitched you that ye should not obey the truth, before whose eyes Jesus Christ hath been evidently set forth and crucified among you.
So now what you want to notice here says, the Apostle Paul says, because he noticed that the Jews in Galatia, they were bewitched. They didn't understand what was going on. You know, they was under a spell. They were following the customs of the Greeks. You understand? In those lands that were scattered. So now the Apostle Paul is saying, who hath bewitched you? He is asking, who has bewitched you that you should not obey the truth? The point I'm bringing out is that the only time when we get bewitched is when we don't keep the laws of God. Now, what is the truth? Give me that in Psalms 119, verse 142, so we can understand what the Apostle Paul is talking about when he says, "O foolish Galatians," meaning you Israelites scattered in Galatia, who has bewitched you that you should not obey the truth? Read that. Psalms 119, verse 142. Read that.
The book of Psalms, chapter 119, verse 142.
Go ahead.
Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness.
Come on.
And thy law is the truth.
You see what the truth is? The laws of God. I hope you brothers and sisters, you are making notes. Take notes. You understand? Don't be a professional student. You must make sure you make notes so you can read the scriptures on your own. You understand? Okay. So now the Apostle Paul, when he says, go back to Galatians 3, I'm just using this as an example for what we are going over, what the Chinese was doing, you understand, to bewitch us so they can overthrow us. You understand? Read Galatians 3 verse 1.
The book of Galatians chapter 3 verse 1. O
Read.
foolish Galatians, who hath bewitched you, that ye should not obey the truth?
That you should not obey the truth. That you should not obey the laws of God. Because what are they teaching in the church? They say the laws of God are done away with. We are under grace. You don't got to keep no laws. Just under grace. Just believe on Christ and you're going to be good. No. You must keep the commandments in the faith of Christ. You must keep the laws so that you don't get bewitched. The reason why people are bewitched today in Christianity, listen, 7-day disadvantage, Jehovah's wickedness, listen, all of these Christianity denominations, they are all bewitched up in there. Why? Because they don't teach the laws of God. They don't teach Passover. They don't teach the Feast of First Fruits. They don't teach the memorial of blowing of trumpets. They don't observe the new moon. You understand? They don't observe the Feast of Pentecost, tabernacles that's coming in October, the Feast of Dedication. They're not observing none of that. They are not keeping those high holidays. I'm just using that as an example. You understand? They buy, they cook, they sell on the Sabbath day, breaking the first high holiday that the Lord gave unto us on the 7th day in Genesis chapter 2, verse 1 through 3. They are not observing none of that. And they don't acknowledge themselves as the children of Israel. They say, no, we are Christians. You understand? So, but the children of God have names. It's the 12 tribes of Israel. So that's the bewitching today, because today our nationality, our identity is taken from us. So because of that, now we go to these churches, we mixed up with all these nations, all of which they don't believe on Jesus. That's why they teach, why Jesus? Which is not in the Bible. That's why our people are bewitched. In Islam, our people are bound down to a rock called Allah. When the scripture says, don't bow down to no rocks, you understand? But any image of stone to bow down unto it. Give me that in Leviticus 26. I know I'm digressing, but the spirit is on. All praises. Leviticus 26. Okay. Leviticus 26 verse 1. This is the law.
The book of Leviticus chapter 26 verse 1.
Read.
Ye shall make you no idols, no graven image. Neither rear you up a standing image. Neither shall ye set up any image of stone in your land.
Go ahead.
To bow down unto it, for I am the Lord your God.
You see, that's the law right there. But our people, our brothers and sisters in Islam, calling themselves Muslims, that's what they bow down to. That Kaaba stone in Mecca, that black rock that they could say, no, we have to go there and what? They say, they call it a Hajj. You are making a Hajj. You understand? You must bow down to the Kaaba stone. That's idolatry. Okay? Having the cross, white Jesus. You understand? That's idolatry. So that's why the Apostle Paul was saying, "O foolish Galatians who have bewitched you." Now, let's go back to Numbers. Okay? Numbers. Go back to Numbers. I just wanted to highlight that point so we understand why here the Lord is saying, listen, there's no divination against Israel, because we just come out of Egypt, out of the greatest place where we were bewitched as a people. You understand? So now the Moses is teaching us the law. As he's teaching us the law, guess what? The Moabites, the Chinese, they want to curse us so they can overthrow us. Meaning effectively to do what? To put us back in chains. That's really what they was doing. Because if they overthrow us and we are driven out the land, what's going to happen? And because remember, we were surrounded by the Ammonites, they were the Japanese of today, You understand? You had the Canaanites, which we are still yet to conquer. So if they got wind of that, what would that mean for us and our children? That means it's open season for them to what? To destroy us most. You see that thing? Numbers 23, verse 23 again.
The book of Numbers, chapter 23, verse 23.
Read.
Surely there is no enchantment against Jacob. Neither is there any divination against Israel.
Read.
According to this time, it shall be said of Jacob and of Israel what God has wrought.
Meaning what? What the Lord has commanded that we will not be bewitched is not going to happen. The only time when we become bewitched is what we just read in Galatians 3. When we don't obey the truth. When we don't keep the laws of God, that's when we get bewitched. Okay? Go ahead.
Behold, the people shall rise up as a great lion.
That's what you are seeing right now. We are rising up as a great lion. Read.
And lift up himself as a young lion.
As a young lion, young powerful lion. Go ahead.
He shall not lie down until he eat of the prey and drink the blood of the slain.
You see that thing? Listen, he says, right now, the Lord is raising up that spirit of Judah, because Judah will go out and wake up the tribes who they are. Everybody gonna drink out of Judah. That's what's going on right now. That's prophecy. Okay, go ahead.
And Balak said unto Balaam, neither curse them at all, no bless them at all.
Read.
And Balaam answered and said unto Balak, told not I thee, say, all that the Lord speaketh, that must I do?
Read.
And Balak said unto Balaam, come, I pray thee, I will bring thee unto another place. Peradventure, it will please God that thou mayest curse me then from thence.
You see what he's saying? He says, let's move from this place where we set up the altar. Let's go somewhere else. Peradventure, meaning maybe. That's what peradventure means. Maybe at this point, God will allow me to curse these people. You can't make this stuff up. You see that thing? So they will pray to the Lord for him to curse us. Keep going.
And Balak brought Balaam unto the top of Peor, that looketh towards Jeshimon.
Read.
And Balaam to Balak, build me here 7 altars, and prepare me here 7 bullocks and 7 rams.
Read.
And Balak did as Balaam had said, and offered a bullock and a ram on every altar.
So now what you are seeing here is that what Balak wanted to do, this Moabite, this Chinese man, with all the princes of Moab, meaning all of them were in one agreement. They agreed to do what? To curse us and to overthrow us. You understand? It didn't come to pass. Now watch this. Numbers 24. Numbers chapter 24. Numbers 24 verse 1.
The book of Numbers chapter 24 verse 1. And when Balaam saw that it pleased the Lord to bless Israel, he went not, as at other times, to seek for enchantments, but he set his face toward the wilderness.
So now, because all the time, whenever Balak would send him, he would do it. But this time, when he saw that the Lord blessed the nation of Israel, he blessed us, he said, I'm not going back to Balak. I'm not going back there. Okay, read.
And Balaam lifted up his eyes, and he saw Israel abiding in his tents according to their tribes.
Read.
And the Spirit of God came upon him.
Now, what you want to see here is Balaam is realizing, you know what? There's nothing I can do to these people now. You understand? So now he's humbling himself down. It says, and Balaam lifted up his eyes, and he saw Israel abiding in his tents according to their tribes. So the Lord is showing Israel, is showing Balaam when we are now upon the land, when every man is in their own tent, in according to the land that will be allocated to us and according to our tribes. When you look at the map that I showed you on how we was sitting upon the land, Balaam saw that. You understand? In our proper order, in our kingdom. He saw that. Read.
And he took up his parable and said, Balaam, the son of Beor, had said, and the man whose eyes are opened had said.
Read.
He had said, which heard the words of God, which saw the vision of the Almighty, falling into a trance, but having his eyes open.
So now Balaam, now the Lord is causing Balaam to fall into a trance, but his eyes are wide open. You understand? It's like you standing and your eyes are wide open and you just fall into a trance. Okay, go ahead.
How goodly are thy tents, O Jacob, and tabernacles, O Israel.
So now he's seeing Israel upon the land. Let me put that picture up so we can all see what Balaam is seeing. Okay. Okay. So let me know if you can see my screen.
Can see it, sir.
Okay, all praises. So what you're looking at here is how we was, this is the allotment of land. You see, this is Simeon, that's Judah right there. Okay. Dan, Ephraim, Manasseh, Naphtali, Asher, Manasseh on the other side of Jordan, Gad, Reuben. Okay. Moab, Ammon, Edom, the Philistines and all that. The children of Aram are here, the Hittites. So Balaam, this is what Balaam saw. Balaam saw this, what you're looking at here. How the land was, the Lord allotted land for us, our inheritance. You understand? So he saw all of this. You understand? Okay. So go back. Numbers 24.
The book of Numbers, chapter 24, verse 5. How goodly are thy tents, O Jacob, and thy tabernacles, O Israel.
Read.
As the valleys are they spread forth, as gardens by the river's side, as the trees of line aloes, which the Lord had planted, and as cedar trees beside the waters.
Read.
He shall pour the waters out of his buckets, and his seed shall be in many waters.
Read.
And his king shall be higher than Agag, and his kingdom shall be exalted.
Now he's talking about the nation of Israel being exalted when we are in our kingdom. So at this point, remember, we're still in the wilderness, but Balaam is seeing when we are going to be in our kingdom during the time of David and Solomon, when we ruled all nations on earth for 80 years. Read.
God brought him forth out of Egypt. He hath as it were the strength of a unicorn.
That's what we read in Numbers 23. Read on.
He shall eat up the nations, his enemies.
Meaning what? We're going to destroy the nations, because we did it when we was with Moses. We did it when we were with Joshua. And when King Saul took the throne, we also destroyed many of them. And when King David took the throne, we destroyed many of them. During the time of when Solomon was ruling, it was a peaceable time. There was not the time of war. That's why it was needed, so that Solomon can build the temple. Okay, go ahead.
He shall eat up the nations, his enemies, and shall break their bones and pierce them through with his arrows.
He says he shall break their bones and pierce them through with his arrows. This is for back then and today in these last days. That's why the nations are building nuclear missiles, so that they can bomb one another and destroy America. Go ahead.
He couched, he lay down as a lion, and as a great lion, who shall stir him up?
Read.
Blessed is he that blessed thee, and cursed is he that curseth thee.
That's why you see the nations, they don't want to bless us. The nations, they want to curse us. That's why they are cursed. You ever notice all these nations, when they have problems with like drugs and all of that, you understand, the mind is not correct, where do they run to? If they are crazy, where do they run to? They run to they go to see psychiatrists, you understand, psychologists and all of that. They go to rehabilitation centers. We don't do that stuff. All the trauma that we've been through as a nation, you understand, there's no trauma there's no evil. The greatest evil that has ever happened on this earth is what has happened to us. You understand? The transatlantic, the sub-Sahara, the Silk Road, apartheid, Jim Crow, All of that, you understand? The Spanish conquest, when they were destroying Northern Kingdom, no nation has gone through what we've gone through. You understand? And yet, none of us need therapy. The only therapy we need now is the Bible. That's the therapy that we got now. You understand? Read.
And Balak's anger was kindled against Balaam,
Mm.
and he smote his hands together. And Balak said unto Balaam, I called thee to curse mine enemies, and behold, thou hast altogether blessed them these 3 times.
Go ahead.
Therefore now flee thou to thy place. I thought to promote thee unto great honor, but lo, the Lord hath kept thee back from honor.
Go ahead.
And Balaam said unto Balak, Spake I not also to the messengers which thou sendest unto me, saying,
Read.
Balak would give me his house full of silver and gold. I cannot go beyond the commandment of the Lord to do either good or bad of mine own mind. But what the Lord saith, that will I speak.
You see, so he says, even if you give me all these riches that you are promising me to give, I'm not going to go beyond the word of the Lord. That's what he's saying. Read.
And now, behold, I go unto my people. Come therefore, and I will advertise thee what this people shall do to thy people in the latter days.
Now read verse 14 again. That's where I want to deal with this whole chapter. This whole time when we're reading Numbers 22 all the way up to here, this is where we're gonna spend some time here. We're gonna spend some quality time right here. Read verse 14 again.
The book of Numbers, chapter 24, verse 14.
Read.
And now, behold, I go unto my people. Come therefore, and I will advertise thee what this people shall do to thy people in the latter days.
You see what Balaam is telling Balak? He said, listen, I'm going to advertise to you what these people, meaning us, the children of Israel, shall do to thy people in the latter days. We are in the last days now, brothers and sisters. We are in the last days. This is the last days right here. He says, what Israel will do to you in the last days. Watch this. Give me the book of Jeremiah 48, verse 29. Jeremiah 48, verse 29. So hold on. You know what? Go back there. Go back to Numbers. I just want to touch on something. Numbers 24, read verse 15 now.
The book of Numbers, chapter 24, verse 15.
Go ahead.
He took up his parable and said, Balaam, the son of Beor, had said, and the man whose eyes are open had said.
Because remember, Balaam's eyes was open. He's in a trance. The Lord is showing him what's going to happen to Israel in their glory. From the kingdom during the time of the kings and in the last days now, when the Lord returns. Go ahead.
He had said, which heard the words of God and knew the knowledge of the Most High, which saw the vision of the Almighty, falling into a trance, but having his eyes open.
Go ahead.
I shall see him now. I shall see him,
No.
but not now.
Stop right there. It says, I shall see him, but not now. So Balaam is saying, I'm going to see Christ, but not right now. I'm going to see him, but not now. Meaning in the last days, you're going to see him. We are in the last days now. Read.
I shall behold him, but not nigh.
Meaning I'm going to see him, but not nigh. Meaning not close, because why? They are not supposed to be among us. So Balaam is going to see Christ from a distance. So what is this telling you? This is telling you that when the Lord returns, Balaam will be on earth. Okay? Read.
There shall come a star out of Jacob,
and
a scepter shall rise out of Israel.
That's talking about Jesus the Christ. Okay, go ahead.
And shall smite the corners of Moab.
Stop right there. They shall smite the corners of Moab. Meaning what? When World War III erupts, guess what's going to happen? Moab is going to be affected. The corners of Moab, meaning The land of Moab is going to be affected by the nuclear bombs. That's why they are building nuclear bombs. Because when they launch nuclear missiles, you think the nations are not going to launch nuclear missiles back to them? Yes, they will. He says, I'm going to smite the corners of Moab, of China. Read.
And destroy all the children of Sheth.
And destroy all the children of Sheth, meaning those that are worshiping idols and all of that. Now jump back up to verse 14.
The book of Numbers, chapter 24, verse 14.
Read.
And now, behold, I go unto my people. Come therefore, and I will advertise thee what this people shall do to thy people in the latter days.
Because guess what? In the latter days, we're going to destroy Moab. Not all of them, because we need servants. But here's the key. What Moab will do to us also, because Moab will do something to us. Moab is going to do something to us which they've done already and are still doing. Watch this. Give me Jeremiah now. Chapter 48, verse 29. Jeremiah 48, verse 29. Watch this.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 48, verses 29.
Go ahead.
We have heard the pride of Moab.
He says, we have heard the pride of China. We have heard the pride of Moab, because China, the Chinese, they are very, very arrogant, you see. You see how they were, remember during the COVID-19, that first wave that came through? What was they doing to our brothers and sisters in China? They were kicking them out of their houses. You understand that they've rented? They said they are the ones that are responsible for the corona. When they came back, those students that were renting over there, they came back from school and their staff were taken out of their apartments and they locked their apartments. They locked them out. You can't make this stuff up. They're going to pay for what they've done. Read it again.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 48, verse 29.
Read.
We have heard the pride of Moab. He is exceeding proud.
He is exceeding proud. So the Lord is emphasizing, says, we've heard of the pride of Moab. And says, he is exceeding proud. You see that? Read.
His loftiness and his arrogancy.
And his arrogancy, go ahead.
And his pride.
Read.
And the haughtiness of his heart.
And the haughtiness of his heart. He's haughty, proud. Read.
I know his wrath, said the Lord.
Come on.
But it shall not be so. His lies shall not so affect it.
So read that again, verse 30.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 48, verse 30. I know his wrath, said the Lord, but it shall not be so. His lies shall not so affect it.
So now he says he knows the wrath of Moab. He says, but it shall not be so. His lies shall not so affect it. Because Moab, they are pushing lies as well. You understand? Moab is pushing lies to our people. That's why they come to the continent, they be selling lies to our people, and in exchange, they're getting the minerals, which is 100 times more than what the lies they promised to our people on the continent. And because our people were in an impoverished state, our people, they make desperate decisions. Okay? Watch this. Give me the book of Isaiah, Isaiah 49 and verse 12. Isaiah 49 verse 12. Watch this.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 49, verse 12.
Read.
Behold, these shall come from far, and lo, these from the north and from the west, and these from the land of Sinim.
And these from the land of Sinim. Who's the these? Who's he talking about? Jump up to verse 3, so we know who's the subject that will come from the land of Sinim. Read.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 49, verse 3.
Come on.
He said unto me, thou art my servant, O Israel, in whom I will be glorified.
So the Lord will be glorified in us when we keep his commandments. So the subject matter is about Israel coming out of the land of Sinim. How did we get into the land of Sinim? Give me that in Deuteronomy 28. Okay, Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 68. Deuteronomy 28, verse 68. How did we end up in the land of Sinim? Okay. By the way, before we get there, let me just, before we get Deuteronomy, you can get Deuteronomy and just hold it. Let me share my screen so we can see who is Sinim. Okay. Right. Now, okay, read that.
Sinim,
Sinim. Okay, read the next paragraph.
the land of sin,
Mm.
or Sinim, the inhabitants of the land of sin, or the people of sin.
Okay, go ahead.
Is a biblical
Hapax legomenon.
hapax legomenon.
Go ahead.
Legomenon that appears in Isaiah 49, verse 12.
Okay, now let's read the next paragraph now.
Some English versions simply translate the word.
No. It doesn't say translate. Read that right. Read it again.
Some English versions simply transliterate
They
the
transliterate, meaning they translate the word for word. That word, they translate it word for word. That's what that means. Transliterate means. Go ahead.
Others translate the Hebrew as sine or
Cyan, as cyan.
as cyan or aswan.
As1. Read.
And still others associate sin with China.
With what?
With China.
So now let's go down. Keep going. Keep reading.
Sinim resembles sine.
Read.
The
Latinization, meaning what? When Genghis Khan, hold on, when Genghis Khan took over, Genghis Khan was a white man. You understand? That's why it says the Latinization. Because what was they speaking? They were speaking Latin. Read.
The Latinization of kin after the kin state, founded in 778 BC.
Read.
And the Qin dynasty, founded in 221 BC by King Shi Huangdi.
Now that's China right there. You don't have to be a genius to figure that out. Okay, so these are the Bible versions, right? These are the Bible versions. Now, let's see in the King James Version, Sinim, the translation is on the right, but I want you to see Sinim. The KJV, the one that we are reading, what is the translation?
The translation from the KJV is Sinim.
Sinim. Now let's look at the International Standard Version.
The translation from the International Standard Version is China.
You see that? China. So Sinim is China. So how did we, the children of Israel, end up in Sinim, the land of Sinim? Now, Deuteronomy 28, verse 68 now.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 68.
Read.
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spake unto thee.
Come on.
Thou shalt see it no more again.
Read.
And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies.
Come on.
Bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you.
You see that thing? And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. No man shall redeem you out of those conditions. That's what he's saying right there. So what you want to know is, notice is that it says in the latter days, we ended up in the land of Sinim, in China. How did we get there? Through slavery. You understand? The Silk Road slave trade. We were sold over there. Okay, now watch this. Go back to Isaiah 49 verse 12. Read that again for me.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 49, verse 12.
Mm-hmm.
Behold, these shall come from far, And lo, these come from the north and from the west, and these come from the land of Sinim.
They come from the land of Sinim, meaning us, the children of Israel. We will be scattered in China. You understand? Via the Silk Road slave trade and the transatlantic, the sub-Sahara slave trade that took place in the Indian Ocean. Okay, watch this. Give me the book of Jeremiah 48, verse 11. Jeremiah 48, verse 11.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 48, verse 11.
Read.
Moab had been at ease from his youth.
You see that thing? It says Moab had been at ease from his youth. He's been at ease. Okay? He's taking a chill pill. He's having fun. He's enjoying himself by having us in slavery. Go ahead.
And he had settled on his lease.
So you know what that means when it says settled on his lease? Lease goes into wine. Meaning what? When somebody is sitting down and drinking wine, they are really enjoying themselves. They have no care in the world. You understand? That's what Moab has been doing from his youth up. Go ahead.
And hath not been emptied from vessel to vessel.
Meaning, no, Moab has not been emptied from vessel to vessel like we have been emptied from vessel to vessel, one captivity unto another. Moab has not been gone into captivity. Read.
Neither hath he gone into captivity.
You see that thing? Neither had he gone into captivity. Read.
Therefore, his taste remained in him,
and
his scent is not changed.
Meaning what? The way Moab looks, it says his scent is not changed. Because it says, therefore, his taste remained in him. Meaning what? Moab has not been mixing with the other nations like that. That's what he's saying also. He's going into that. Like we have been doing. You understand? We've been mixing with the nations. That's why when you read Revelation 7 verse 9, 7 verse 9 down, the angel was asking. He says, who are these, my Lord? It says, listen, who are these people? It says, these are those that came out of great tribulation. Let me read that actually. Let's read that. Revelation 7. Revelation chapter 7. Okay, let me read it. Revelation chapter 7. We're going to start at verse 9.
The book of Revelations, chapter 7, verse 9.
Come on.
After this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with male robes, clothed with white robes, and palms in their hands.
So now this is talking about, he says they come, he says what? Of all nations, because we would be scattered among all nations. Give me that in Deuteronomy 28, Deuteronomy chapter 4. Read verse 27. He says, of all nations and of tongues and of kindreds, because we will be coming out of these different nations speaking the languages of our captivity. We will not be speaking Hebrew. Okay? Deuteronomy 4 verse 27.
The book of Deuteronomy chapter 4 verse 27. And the Lord shall scatter you among the nations.
You see that thing? The Lord will scatter us among the nations. That's why the word nations is used over there, because we would be scattered among all these nations. We will learn their language. We will learn their culture. We will eat the things that they eat and so forth. We will learn everything about them and be them in our actions. Okay, read on.
And ye shall be left few in number among the heathen, whither the Lord shall lead you.
Because the Lord would scatter us. You understand? The Lord will scatter us. Go back to Revelation 7. Verse 9 again.
The book of Revelation, chapter 7, verse 9. After this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues.
Stop right there. It says, and tongues, and tongues, and tongues.
The book of Isaiah, chapter 28, verse 11. For with stammering lips
With what?
And for with stammering lips.
The stammering lips is the lips that we would speak, which is outside of our what? Our native tongue, which is Hebrew. Stammering lips and what?
And another tongue.
And another tongue, meaning a tongue that we would not understand. Right.
Will he speak to this people?
So wherever we are scattered, we would be speaking the languages of where we are scattered. As an example, in this context, China. You understand? Okay. Now go back to Revelation 7. Revelation chapter 7, verse 9 again.
The book of Revelation chapter 7, verse 9.
Read.
After this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands.
So now this is all the children of Israel coming out of these nations. Read.
And cried with a loud voice, saying, Salvation to our God which sitteth upon the throne, and unto the Lamb.
Read.
And the angels stood round about the throne, and about the elders and the four beasts, and fell before the throne on their faces and worshipped God.
Come on.
Saying, Amen. Blessing and glory and wisdom and thanksgiving and honor and power and might be unto our God forever and ever. Amen.
Read.
And one of the elders answered, saying unto me, What are these which are arrayed in white robes? And whence came they?
You see what he's asking? Now he says what? Read that verse again.
The book of Revelations, chapter 7, verse 13. And one of the elders answered, saying unto me, What are these which are arrayed in white robes? And whence came they?
So one of the elders, this is one of the 24 elders up there in the heavens. He is asking the question, who are these people? You understand? Who are these people which are arrayed in white robes, and whence came they? Where do they come from? Who are these people? Because he doesn't recognize us. Because we done mixed with these nations, and now the children that come forth, they look like these nations, but they are still Israel. So now we are mixed together. So we mix with white people, we mix with the Chinese, we mix with East Indians, we mix with the Arabs, and so forth. We mix with the Hamites. Now, as we are coming out of these nations, you understand, in spirit and in truth, keeping God's commandments, and now we are going to the homeland. The angel is like, who are these people? Because at that point, we are not recognizable. The way we left is not the way how we are coming back. So Moab is not like that. Because no, it says Moab is not emptying himself from vessel to vessel, meaning what? Moab has not been mixing himself with all these nations like that, like we have been doing. You see that? Read on.
And I said unto him, Sir, thou knowest. And he said to me, These are they which came out of great tribulation.
You see what he's saying? These are they which came out of great tribulation. Read on.
And washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb.
Because he says what? He says he made them white in the blood of the Lamb. The only way we are going to overcome, brothers and sisters, we are going to overcome with the blood of Christ. The blood of Christ is how we are going to overcome. We're not going to overcome by our might. We're not going to overcome by our power. We're not going to overcome by the way we think, our thoughts, our smartness. No, we are going to overcome by the blood of the Lamb. Only through Christ, that's how we're going to get delivered. Keeping the commandments in the faith of the Messiah, the Christ. That's how we're going to get delivered. Okay? Now, okay, that's it on that. I just wanted to show you that so you can see what he's talking about. Okay? Go back to Jeremiah 48, verse 11 again.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 48, verse 11.
Read.
Moab had been at ease from his youth, and he had settled on his lees, and hath not been emptied from vessel to vessel.
Read on.
Neither hath he gone into captivity.
Read.
Therefore, his taste remained in him, and his scent is not changed.
And his scent is not changed, meaning the way he looks is not changed. You understand? Watch this. Give me the book of Zechariah chapter 1 verse 15. It says Moab is at ease. You understand? He's been at ease from his youth. That's why the Chinese are so arrogant, okay? You see them even here. They've got shops here. There's the Chinatowns. There's Chinatowns all over South Africa. Chinatowns everywhere. You understand? Watch this. Zechariah chapter 1. Read verse 15.
The book of Zechariah, chapter 1, verse 15. I am very so displeased with the heathen that are at ease.
You see what the Lord is saying? He says he's very displeased with the heathen that are at ease, meaning they are okay with us being in sin. They are okay with us being at the bottom. Okay, read on.
For I was but a little displeased, and they helped forward the affliction.
And they help forward the affliction, meaning they are making the situation worse. That's the mindset. That's how they all think. Read that again, verse 15.
The book of Zechariah, chapter 1, verse 15. I am very so displeased with the heathen that are at ease. For I was but a little displeased, and they helped forward the affliction.
And they help forward the affliction. They're making the situation worse for us. Okay, now watch this. Now let's read the article now. Okay, let's read the article. 1 second. Remember we read what Sinem is. Sinem is China. Okay, let me share my screen real quick. Yes, of course. So let me know if you can see the screen. Okay, there we go. So now this is a research paper. Okay, I don't have my book here of the Silk Road. This is part 1 of the Chinese slave trade. Okay, I'm gonna do part 2. Okay, read the title.
Sino-Platonic papers.
Sino-Platonic papers. Sino goes into Sinem. Okay, Sinem, China. Okay. Read that.
Sino-Platonic papers. The magical Sino-Platonic papers. The magical Kunlan and devil slaves.
The magical Kunlan and devil slaves, because that's what they call us in China, Kunlan. Here they call us kafirs. In the US, they call us niggers. Okay, niggers or Negroes. Read.
Chinese perceptions of dark-skinned people and Africa before 1500.
Before the 1500. So who's the author?
By Julie Wilinski.
By Julie Wilinski. Wilinski, you know that word Wilinski? That goes into, these are Polish, okay? Wilinski, Polish. They are Polish. So who are these people? This is Amalek, okay? Wilinski, that's Amalek right there. Nah, we're not gonna read that. Okay. Okay, so I want you to read this now. Introduction. Historians.
Introduction. Historians have not yet established the precise date of the first contacts between the Chinese and African peoples.
Well, we can determine it because we just read it. Okay. We read it in Numbers. We read it in Numbers already. Okay. And we know where the Chinese come from. They come from Lot. Okay. These are the children of Lot. Okay. Read.
Moreover, the available sources make it impossible to calculate exactly how many Chinese people traveled to Africa or how many Africans went to China in pre-modern times.
We know, listen, from the time of Numbers and Genesis, where have they been? They've been on the African continent. Because when you look at the allotment of land, Moab is on the east. You understand? Is towards northeast. You understand? And Ammon is towards northeast. and Moab is towards southeast. Okay, go ahead.
What Chinese sources do reveal, however, is how Chinese people viewed those with dark skin and how these perceptions changed over time.
Read.
Reflecting first what Chinese people imagined and later what they knew about African countries and their inhabitants.
Because remember, it says how they viewed. Who's writing this? Amalek is writing this. Because if we go back in the past, remember they are very slick. Okay, that's Amalek. It says historians have not yet established the precise date of the first contact between the Chinese and the African peoples. So what you want to notice is that, listen, the quote unquote African, because they talk about us. Okay, but we have made the first contact. The reason why it was not a taboo back then, it was because everybody had majority of the people was dark skinned during the time of Numbers. You understand? Not everybody, but the majority of the people upon the earth. That's how we looked. All right. Read when it says perceptions changed. Read that part again.
What
No,
Chinese sources?
No, perceptions. Read that.
Perceptions changed as knowledge and exploration of the countries and peoples of Southeast Asia, the Indian subcontinent, and East Africa increased.
Go ahead, meaning over time, this knowledge increased. Go ahead.
This essay examines a combination of non-fiction accounts.
Meaning what? I'm going to give you history. Okay, non-fiction accounts. Go ahead.
Fictional literature.
There's no such thing. Fictional literature, they like to throw off by using these words. Fictional literature. There's nothing fictional about what we're reading. Okay, read.
Geographical sources.
Mm-hmm.
And travel diaries from the Tang.
That's the Tang dynasty. What year was it?
Which is from 1618.
No, 618.
From 618 to 907.
AD.
To 907 AD.
Go ahead.
To the Ming dynasty.
Mm-hmm.
Which is from 1368 till 1644
AD. Go
AD.
ahead.
To analyze the shifts in Chinese perceptions of people with dark skin and Chinese knowledge of Africa and Africans.
So now this is what it says. This is fictional accounts, geographical sources, and travel diaries from the Tang and Ming dynasty. Okay, keep going.
Beginning in the Tang dynasty.
Beginning in the Tang dynasty, go ahead.
Arab traders brought a number of East African slaves to China.
You can make this stuff up. You'll always find Ishmael. Whenever there's a slave trade going on, Ishmael is always involved. Okay? What happened when Joseph was sold in Egypt? Who was responsible for this? Ishmael was in the midst. Okay? Read that part again.
Beginning in the Tang dynasty, Arab traders brought a number of East African slaves to China.
So Arab traders brought a number of East African slaves to China. Watch this. I'm going to deal with Ishmael. Not today, though. His time is coming. Give me Jeremiah 3, verse 2. Jeremiah chapter 3, verse 2. Everybody going to get it. Jeremiah 3, verse 2. Watch this. As we are doing this, the angels are activating. Okay. Jeremiah chapter 3 and verse 2. Read it.
The book of Jeremiah, chapter 3, verse 2.
Read.
Lift up thine eyes unto the high places.
Come on.
And see where thou hast not been lying with.
We see where thou hast not been tricked. Go ahead.
And see where thou hast not been lying with.
Come on.
In the ways hast thou set for them, as the Arabian in the wilderness.
As the Arabians in the wilderness. Because guess what? We learned under the Arabs, we were being taught what? Islam. That's why in North Africa, you understand, in the Congo, in West Africa, in Nigeria, Niger Delta, in Cameroon, in not Gabon, but in Mali, you understand, in Chad, in Benin, and so forth. There's a lot of them, they are Muslims. Okay, that's what we're reading here. And now in Mozambique as well, there's a lot of Muslims over there. Mozambique. You understand? They are Muslims. Okay, so it is in South Africa as well. Lot of mosques here in South Africa. They are converting people to Islam. Okay, as the Arabians, as thou hast set for them, as the Arabians in the wilderness. So not only were they pushing Islam on us, because when they found out that we're following the scriptures, Judaism, guess what they was doing? They were killing us and forcing us to convert from Judaism to Islam. That's what Muhammad was doing. Okay, so when they did that, not only did they push that doctrine on us, they sold us also to China. You understand? Read the article again. Beginning in the Tang Dynasty. Read that.
Beginning in the Tang Dynasty, Arab traders brought a number of East African slaves to China.
They brought them to China. Go ahead.
Although historians have studied the African slave trade extensively, particularly the export of West African slaves to the Americas after 1500 AD.
You see that thing? So now what he's saying is that the one that is well known is the transatlantic slave trade, but very little is known regarding the Chinese slave trade and the Arabs' involvement during the sub-Sahara slave trade. Go ahead.
A much smaller body of research focuses on the pre-modern East African slave trade, and fewer sources still mention black slaves in China.
Meaning Israelites. You see that thing? It says, okay, let me read. It says, a much smaller body of research focuses on the pre-modern East African slave trade, and fewer sources still mention black slaves in China. You understand? From the 8th to the 14th century, the 8th, that's the 700s, okay? The 14th century, that's the 1300s, that's during the Ming Dynasty, okay? It says, the Arabs control this vast slave trade, meaning the Arabs control the majority of the slave trade in the East. You understand? Which stretched not only along the entire coast of East Africa and throughout the Arab world, but as far as China. Black slaves were just one of many commodities in the Arabs' large-scale maritime trade with China. So they had a long agreement with China to be trading together. And one of the biggest things that they were trading was slaves, okay? Which peaked during the Tang and Song dynasty. You see that part right there? So you have the Tang, then you have the Song. Because you see where the Song took place? The Song dynasty was 960 to 1275 AD. So that's why when we teach on the streets, I always tell you, brothers, it's the Tang, Song, and Ming. Because the Song was between the Tang and the Ming. Okay, in 960 to 1275 AD. The Jui Tang Shu, former Tang history, mentions that the Arabs sent delegates to the Chinese court in 651. Remember what we have on the Trans-Sahara slave trade. We have 652 AD, because 651, that's when they mentioned the Arabs sent delegates to the Chinese court in 651, because in 651, the 652, that's when they made it official. But before that, in 651, that's when they wanted to make it official, which came to pass in 651 AD. Okay, so the research is not wrong. All praises to the Most High God for that thing. Okay, marking the first recorded official contact between the Chinese government and the Arab Caliphate, meaning what? The higher ups in the Arab world. By the 9th century, that's the 800s, a sizable community of Arabs lived in Guangzhou, and the local residents could have seen African slaves on trading ships and in Arab homes. So they left the Arab homes because they were forcing us to follow Islam. And guess what? When it was time for them to make money from China, they put us on slave ships and they sent us to China and India. So they were trading in both. Okay. It says some wealthy Chinese people even owned African slaves whom they used as doorkeepers, slaves. The first chapter of this paper seeks to explain how Chinese people perceived these black slaves by analyzing representations of people with dark skin in fictional and non-fictional sources from the 5th century, meaning the 1400s, 300s, 400s, 5th century, that's the 400s, through the Song dynasty, tracing the evolution of the meanings and connotations of the term Kunlan. That's how they refer to black people, Kunlan. Okay, this mysterious and poorly understood word first applied to dark-skinned Chinese and then expanded over time to encompass multiple meanings. When it says dark-skinned Chinese, who do you think that's talking about? Dark-skinned Chinese? Because they're not going to call their people Kunlan. Dark-skinned Chinese people is talking about our people in China. You understand? So here they are just trying to throw us off. The Chinese will not call their own people Kunlan. You see that? So you need to be able to see the lie. You should be able to look at it with spiritual eyes to see that here they're just trying to throw us off. Remember, Amalek wrote this. And then expanded over time to encompass multiple meanings, all connotating dark skin. This chapter examines the meaning of the term Kunlan in nonfiction before and during the Tang. Fictional tales about magical superhuman Kunlan slaves from the Tang fiction Compendium, taping Guangji. So what you want to see here, they keep saying fictional. There's nothing fictional about this. Okay. They call us superhuman Kunlan slaves, meaning devil slaves. Okay. Let me see. Extending gleanings of the reign of great tranquility. And finally, representations of the Kunlan from a non-fictional writer from the song Zuhan. Although fictional portrayals do not necessarily provide information about what actual African slaves experienced in China, we know slavery. That's what we read in Numbers. What your people shall do to my people in the last days, because in the last days, the Chinese will put us in slavery. And now Balaam is being told, listen, this is what's going to happen to China in the last days because of what they did to us. That's why it says you're going to smite the corners of Moab, meaning Moab is going to be affected when World War III breaks out, okay, because of what they did to us. All right. It says is a valuable source because its popularity reveals widespread cultural perception of people with dark skin. Histories and other nonfiction accounts, on the other hand, indicate how some Chinese viewed these people with dark skin, but it can be difficult to determine the readership and popularity of these sources because the information they contain does not seem to have reached a wider audience. Yes, talk about us. We are the wider audience. Were these Tang and Song images of the Kunlan based on direct contact between Chinese and African peoples? When did the Chinese make a conceptual link between the Kunlan slaves in China? You see that thing? That's what the one that said dark-skinned Chinese people is not talking about the Moabites. No, it's talking about us in China. Okay? It says to make a conceptual link between the Kunlan slaves in China and the countries and peoples of East Africa, because they are the same people. They were brought over there on slave ships by being sold by the Arabs. The second chapter addresses these questions by examining Chinese histories and geographies from Tang and Song that describes African countries and their inhabitants. The answer to the first question is straightforward. A few Chinese may have visited Africa during this time, but most, if not all, Chinese knowledge about Africans came from the Arabs. You see, I'm still collecting information about our Ishmael. Woo! On that day, please, Lord, just give me Ishmael, yeah. Who brought specific geographic knowledge of the countries along the maritime trade route between East Africa and China. Most of the Chinese description of Africa were compiled by authors who never left China and gleaned their information about foreign countries and people from Arab traders living in China. So that's why in 651 they had to create, there were talks on how to officialize their trade deals of us. Okay. It says, regardless of whether these accounts indicate direct contact between Chinese and the African peoples in Tang and Song, however, they reveal Chinese historians and geographers in increasing knowledge of Africa and Africans. The new knowledge allowed the Chinese to make a connection between the Kunlan slaves in China and the East African slave trade. So the East African slave trade is what the Arabs was doing together with the Chinese, because for some ungodly reason, this Amalek, Julie Wilinski, she's trying to make it seem as though the Chinese have nothing to do with this. You brothers see that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
They are trying to make it seem like China has nothing to do with this. It's the Arab. No, no, no. A trade is between two parties in exchange for goods. What are they talking about? That's why it's called a trade. You give me something and I give you something back. We are trading. That's why in 1651 they had to officialize their trade deals with China and the Arabs. Okay. It says, once the Chinese made this connection between the Kunlan and the African slave trade, did the meaning of the word Kunlan shift again? On how did China's maritime exploration of the East African coast in the early 15th century, 1400s, affect Chinese perception of African countries and their inhabitants? The third chapter will examine two travels accounts from the Yuan and Ming dynasties that describes the author's travel to Africa. Let me see. Yes. Some of the things that they just, bones here. Okay, let's see. It says images of Kunlan from the 5th century to the Song, meaning Song dynasty. It says Yinshu, history of the Yin, describes Empress Li, a concubine of Emperor Zhua Wuwen. Zhua Wuwen, meaning Li was a concubine of Emperor Zhua Wuwen. Remember, they were not going to make their own people concubines. So that's talking about our sisters in China that were made concubines to these emperors in China. Okay. She was tall and her coloring was black. There's a black woman. All the people in the place, in the palace, used to call her Kunlan, meaning kafir. That's what it means. Was the term Kunlan synonymous with dark skin? Yes. He is posing it as a question, but that's what they actually say. The term Kunlan is synonymous with dark skin, meaning nigger. Okay, kafir, Zanj. That's where the word Zanzibar come from. Zanj, meaning the land of the black. That's what the Arabs call our people in Mozambique, Zanj, meaning the land of the black. Zanjis, Zanzibar. Okay, it says this anecdote comes from a history of the Yin dynasty, 265 to 420, before the African slaves had been imported into China and before the Chinese had made significant contacts with Southeast Asian countries. So how did they get there then? How did these Israelites get to China? Because the Tang, Song, and Ming dynasty is the one that everybody knows, is the official story, is the official trade. But these people they officialized the trade of slaves in 652, but in 651, that's when they sat down to discuss their trade deals. So way before that, there was a slave trade going on of our people. You brothers and sisters get that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
It says the origins of the word Kunlan are unclear. And like many terms, its meaning have shifted over time because they keep changing it to hide the history. As early as Han Dynasty, Chinese sources describe the Kunlan Mountains in northwest China as the home of the mythical Shi Wangmu, Queen Mother of the West. Because remember, you see like your Buddhas and all of that, when we were slaves in China, you see what we know what we did? The Great Wall of China, we built that. You understand? The Shaolin temples, we We are the ones that built those Shaolin temples, and we taught them martial arts. One of the brothers that was taken from East Africa to China was Yasuke. Yasuke is called the Black Samurai. You can Google him. Let me see if I can Google Yasuke. 1 second. So all these Chinese martial arts that we see today, that's not them. They learned the stuff from us. Yes, I think there's even some kind of a movie or a series on YouTube about that. Yasuke, the Black Samurai. Okay, so all these Chinese people, the legendary samurai warrior, Yasuke. There's even a thingy, let me see. You see, he's got cornrows on his head. That's an Israelite right there. Okay. Woo, that's some beautiful stuff right there. Let me share my screen. Okay, anybody see my screen now?
Yes, sir.
That's him right there. Yasuke. That's Yasuke right there. Okay, they're even saying, you see, the mysterious African slave who became a legendary samurai warrior. Where did they learn this stuff from? They learned this stuff from us. They make movies about it and all that. Okay, Yasuke. Don't get it twisted. The Afro Samurai, that series by Samuel L. Jackson, yes, is based on this brother right here, Yasuke. Okay, he was mighty with a sword. So all this Chinese Shaolin martial arts stuff, they learned it from this brother right here. Okay,
So it's
but
on,
I'm gonna do.
it's on Netflix.
Oh yeah, there it is. Not on Netflix. There's some series on Netflix. Okay,
Yes, sir.
about this brother. This is our forefather. He was mighty with a sword. Okay. He was heavy. Okay. So all these stuff that you see, I think this brother Chadwick, is it the one that played him? So this is a statue of the brother. That's Yasuke right there. You see his locks? He's got locks. Yeah, that's the locks right there. You see he's got locks there. Heavy, heavy stuff. That's some beautiful stuff right there. That's him right there, Yasuke. Okay. So all praise to the Most High for that. I'm still gonna bring out a lot of stuff regarding this man and how we taught them the Shaolin martial arts and all of that. That's another part that I'm gonna deal with, not today. Okay. Okay, going back to the article. It says, was the term Kunlan synonymous with dark skin? This anecdote comes from the history of the Yin dynasty, 265 to 420. Before African slaves have ever been imported into China and before the Chinese had made significant contacts with Southeast Asian countries. So when and why did the term Kunlan take on this meaning? The origins of the word Kunlan are unclear, and like many terms, its meaning have shifted over time. As early as the Han Dynasty, Chinese sources describe the Kunlan Mountains in northwest China as the home of the mythical Yi Wangmu, Queen Mother of the West. The meanings of the word Kunlan gradually broadened over time, and various sources simultaneously use the term in different ways. These uses of Kunlan are unrelated to the name of the Kunlan Mountains. Instead, they reveal Chinese perception of those with dark skin, since the term retained this connotation. So he's trying to throw us off. He says Chinese people of dark skin. He's talking about the children of Israel. Okay. That's what we read in Isaiah 49 verse 12. Because how did we end up over there? Because they transported us over there. Let's see. It says, I'm not gonna read the whole thing like that, but it says, although we do not know who read the histories and other non-fiction accounts, these fictional tales were widely read at the time of their publication, revealing common images of the Kunlan that reflect popular perceptions of the people with dark skin. So there's nothing fictional about this. Let me say that again. Finally, this section will examine representations of the Kunlan and foreign devil slaves, because that's what they called us. Okay, because the Chinese, they say they believe that we could swim without blinking. So they made us to go into the ocean to fix their leaking boats. That's what they was doing. Non-fiction from the 5th century through the Tang, that's the 400s. Sources from the 4th and 5th century use the term Kunlan to describe the people with dark skin. So the previous one, it says fictional. This one says non-fictional. No, it's all saying the same thing. An anecdote from the history of the Luisong dynasty, for example, describes an emperor who had a Kunlan slave, meaning what? An Israelite, marking the earliest mention of a Kunlan person rather than the term used as an adjective for dark-skinned Chinese person. Let's talk about us. This Kunlan slave, Baizu, was often at the emperor's side. He was ordered to beat the ministers and officials with a stick, and even the highest ranking ministers feared his venom. Among fictional and non-fictional portrayals of the Kunlan, this instance is the only depiction of a Kunlan person surnamed Bai, which means white. Perhaps this slave's name of white reveals the author's attempt to add humor, since the term Kunlan had a connotation of dark skin. So the term Bai was a mockery of our forefathers and foremothers in China, because we were so dark, they were saying Bai just to mock us, meaning white. You see that? So it was an attempt to mock us. Give me that in Psalms 44. Okay, no, Lamentations 2, that's a better one. Lamentations 2 is not in my notes, so it just popped into my head. Lamentations chapter 2, verse 15. Read that. Come on. Lamentations 2, verse 15. Read that.
The book of Lamentations, chapter 2, verse 15. All that pass by clap their hands at thee. They hiss and wag their head at the daughter of Jerusalem, saying, is this the city that men call the perfection of beauty?
Come on.
The joy of the whole earth?
You see that thing? It says our enemies, what do? They clap their hands at us. They hiss and wag their heads. You understand? A term of reproach. That's what they was doing in China. Read on. Next verse. Come on.
The Lord,
no,
all thy
16.
enemies. The book of Lamentations, 2, verse 16.
Come on.
All thine enemies have opened their mouth against thee.
You see that thing? That's what we just read. All our enemies have opened their mouth against us. That's why they were calling us Bai, meaning white, to mock us because how black we was. Read.
They hiss and gnash the teeth.
They gnash the teeth. Read.
They say, we have swallowed her up.
We have swallowed her up, meaning we have destroyed these people. Go ahead.
Certainly, this is the day that we looked for. We have found, we have seen it.
Meaning what? This is the day we looked for. So our enemies, they looked forward to us being destroyed. That's why right now they are at ease. It says Moab has been eased from his youth. Okay? He's been sipping wine just meaning what? He was just sitting down. Right now, he's enjoying himself. He's comfortable because we as a people were destroyed. You understand? Okay. Let's go back to the article now. It says the name Bai was also a common surname for non-Chinese people from a region of present-day Xinjiang. However, so perhaps it merely reflects that the slave was not Chinese. You see that? He's telling you right there. This early depiction of a Kunlan indicates the slave's imposing power with his proximity to the emperor and ability to punish even the highest officials. Because even when we were slaves, they were still afraid of us. The description of Bai's physical power may my precise later tales about the superhuman strength of the Kunlan. You see how they called us? They say we are superhuman. You are superhumans. Okay? That's why they put us to work like this. You understand? These histories of the 4th and 5th century, however, were not actually recorded until the Tang dynasty, when the term Kunlan was better known due to the popularity of fictional tales about the Kunlan. The Tang historians, and this also goes into the movies they make. That's why they keep saying fictional. The cartoons they create, that's why they keep saying fictional. You ever seen there's a lot of cartoons coming out of China? You understand? Dragon Ball Z and all that. Because when you look at Dragon Ball Z, that's going into us as a people. Don't get it twisted. Okay? The Tang historians might have well inserted the word Kunlan into accounts of emperor who lived hundreds of years earlier. One has to wonder whether people even knew the word Kunlan before the Tang. Since the lack of contemporary sources using the word as a descriptive epithet for persons make it difficult to pinpoint exactly when the term came into use. We know it was in the 300s even. The meaning of the word Kunlan expanded during the Tang to include the races, countries, and languages of Southeast Asia, because that's where the majority of our people was taken. The former Tang history describes the homeland of the Kunlan people, the people living to the south of Linyi, present-day Vietnam. So guess what? Israel is over there in Vietnam. Have curly hair. Hold on. The people living to the south of Linyi, present-day Vietnam, have curly hair and black bodies and are commonly called Kunlan. You can't make this stuff up. Hold on a second. They have curly hair and black bodies. You see even the way they describe it? Oh my God, man. Have curly hair and black bodies and are commonly called Kunlan, meaning what? Kafirs. So in Vietnam, Vietnam is designated area of the people called the Kunlan. You understand? So the majority of the people in Vietnam is Israel. Okay? It says the description of the country of Zenla, present-day Cambodia, also includes information on the Kunlan. The country of Zenla is northwest of Linyi. It was originally a dependent of Funan. It is the term. It is of the Kunlan type. This appears to be the earliest Chinese indication of the Kunlan as a racial group with specific homeland. So Cambodia and Vietnam, our people is over there too. Cambodia and Vietnam. Okay. It says this appears to be the earliest Chinese indication of the Kunlan as a racial group with specific homeland, because we always secluded ourselves. Okay. Other sources also describe the Kunlan people and their homeland in Southeast Asia. Yin Jing, a Buddhist who traveled to India and back in the 7th century, 600s, describes the Kunlan in this record of Buddhist practices, including a description of Kunlan Island. You see that? Kunlan Island, meaning where all our people were staying. In his list of island countries, although Yingjin distinguishes the Kunlan Island from the large islands of Sumatra, Bali, and Java, because Sumatra, Bali, and Java, the majority of the people in those lands is Japheth. Japheth. The seed of Japheth is over there. Sumatra, Bali, and Java, meaning the Javanese, the Javan. If you read the book of Genesis 10, with the seed of Japheth, Java, Javan is written in there. Okay, that's Japheth. He writes that all these islands were generally known to be by the general name of the country of Kunlan, since the Gunlan first visited Cochin in Guangdong. So what you want to notice is that in these lands, Japheth was mixing with Israel, because we started to mix with Japheth's seed as well. So, but they just called the whole land the island of Kunlan because we all looked alike. Japheth's seed mixed with Shem's seed. Remember, give me that in Genesis 9:25. I'll show you what I mean by that. Okay? Because if you look at the Persians of today, that's the seed of Japheth. Your your Kasem Sulumani, that's the Medes, that's Japheth right there. Okay, Genesis 9 verse 25. Watch this.
The book of Genesis, chapter 9, verses 25.
Go ahead.
And he said, cursed be Canaan. As servant of servants shall he be unto his brethren.
Go ahead.
And he said, blessed be the Lord God of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant.
So blessed be the Lord God of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. Now watch the next verse. Go ahead.
God shall enlarge Japheth,
Mm.
and he shall dwell in the tent of Shem,
Come on.
and Canaan shall be his servant.
You see that thing? It says, God shall enlarge Japheth, and Japheth shall dwell in the tents of Shem. So wherever you see Shem, you see Japheth will be dwelling in our land. So guess what? When we was transported in those lands, guess who joined us over there? Japheth did that. That's why these lands that we just read, you understand? These places, Javan, okay, Bali, Sumatra, and all of it, that's Japheth. And guess what? Israel is over there. Okay. It says the word Gunlan, which is Kunlan, appears in several sources about the Kunlan and appears to be an alternative pronunciation of Kunlan. Hello? Although Yingjing might have listed a specific Kunlan island, his contemporaries applied the term Kunlan to anyone from Southeast Asia, since the term included a group of islands. That's Japheth seeds is over there. So they just said, now you all look alike to us. Yingjing also mentioned that he met with the owner of a Persian trading ship in Guangdong. You see that? Persians. In 671, implying that he knew about China's trade with the Near East, but did not link it to the term Kunlan, because there was what? They were trading in our forefathers and foremothers. Tang sources do not categorize all people with dark skin as Kunlan. However, the former Tang history reports that the residents of the Southeast Asian country of Denden. Who's that? Denden. D-Dan. That's D-Dan. This is Japheth. Okay? Have black coloring. Hold on. Wait a minute. Why do they keep using these terms? They have black coloring. It's like somebody came with a marker and started coloring our people over there. It says they're black coloring, yet the inhabitants are not called Kunlan. Unlike other descriptions of people from Southeast Asian countries in the same chapter, another word used to describe the people with black or dark skin during the Tang is Sengchi or Sengki, transliteration of Zanj. You see that part right there? Zanj, the Arabic word for dark. That's why Zanj, Zanzibar in Mozambique, they are making reference to the same people because that's in the East, okay? Arabs bought these Zengchi, meaning Zanchi slaves from East Africa as part of the large-scale maritime trade between the Persian Gulf and China during the Tang, although contemporary Arab sources describing trade with China do not mention slavery because they are hiding this stuff. We read in Jeremiah 3 verse 2 that they are 100% involved in the slave trade. Arabs were the key participant in the East African slave trade, but they were not participating by themselves. China was involved in this. So what are they talking about? The Arabs were key participants in the East African slave trade, which existed long before their rise to power. You see that? Western, Persian, and Arabic sources use the word Zanj and similar terms to denote Black Africans as early as the 2nd century AD. That's the 100s. You see how long the Arabs have been involved in the slave trade? 1st century. No, 2nd century. That's 100 AD. So that's why when you look at the Arab slave trade, they are hiding the information. That's why they are among us, calling us my friend. They are not our friends. Okay. The word Zenchi and Zenki, excuse me, however, appear far less frequently than Kunlan in Tang sources, indicating that although the meaning of these terms might overlap, they were not equivalent. The scarcity of the references to Zhengqi and Zheng in non-fictional sources suggest that Chinese did not necessarily link the word Kunlan to Arab Zhengqi slaves during the Tang, but they were all the same. Perhaps because of the increasing number of foreign traders and slaves entering China in the 8th and 9th century, that's the 700s and the 800s. However, one Tang account does not expand the meaning of the word Kunlan to include not only traces of people from Southeast Asia, but also these East African Zand, meaning Zhengqi. The Buddhist lexicographer Hoylin includes an entry on the language of Kunlan in his dictionary, Yiki Yin Yi, Yiki Yin Yin Yi. Woo! The sounds and meanings of all the scriptures compiled between 783 and 820. That's what we read, meaning the 8th and 9th century. Huilin uses the term Kunlan as a category to describe dark-skinned people from the islands of the South Pacific. So in the Pacific Islands, guess what you're going to find? You're going to find Japheth and you're going to find Shem, because Japheth will dwell in the tents of Shem. Okay? It says Kunlan also can also be written as Gunlan. They are non-Chinese peoples from the East, meaning East Africa, those from the island states of the southern seas. That's the Pacific. Their bodies are black. Hold on. Why do they keep using these terms? Their bodies are black. There are many types of them, including the Zanj, the Tumi, the Kudang, and the Kema. They are all they are all base peoples. You see what they call us? He says, no, we are all base peoples. These countries lack ritual and propriety. They steal in order to live, to love to feed on humans for food as if they were some sort of rakshas or kind of evil ghosts. The words they speak do not have any correct meaning at all because they didn't understand our language. Okay? They do extremely well when they enter the water, since they can stay there for a day without dying. You see that thing? Because we're not built like these nations. We're not built like them. So our superhuman strength, because no nation can survive these things that we have survived. No nation will survive it. Okay? So in order for them to not to acknowledge that the Lord is we are the Israelites, they're going to make up some stories like ghost stories. Are you kidding? I'm not going to go over the whole thing. It says the description of the Kunlan is the earliest account to attribute mostly undesirable qualities to dark-skinned people and to suggest that they are less than human. You see what they were calling us? That's why in the Constitution, they say we are half a man. Yeah, they say we are half a man. So they call us half humans or superhumans or less than humans. We're half a man. That's why back in the day, in order for you to, it was against the law to vote. So if you're half a man or one third of a man, that means it's going to need about what? 3 of you or 4 of you to complete one man, So 4 of you can come together, you make one man so you can vote. You see this? That's why you see our children, they are the way that they are because of what? Especially in these schools and all of that, they are always feeling inferior. So our job is to make sure they know who they are. You understand? In dismissing their languages as words with no correct meaning, Huilin imposes a value judgment on non-Chinese languages. His use of the term Kunlan extends to include a variety of races, including the Cambodian Kemas and the East African Zanj, because the Kemas in Cambodia, those are Israelites. You understand? The Zanj is talking about Israelites. Those are in Mozambique. The term seemed to refer then not only to blacks, but also to any people that had darker skin than the Han Chinese, although we do not really know how dark the Han Chinese themselves were during the Tang. Holin's mention of the Kunlan's usual skill and endurance in the water, however, is a characteristics image that will often appear when later authors mention the Kunlan. That's why they wanted us to go down there in the ocean to fix their leaking boats. Although the meaning of the word Kunlan expanded during the Tang to include the African Zanchi as well as the Southeast Asians, it is unclear when the term came to link Arab Zenki slaves with the different Kunlan peoples. The Xing Tang Shu New Tang history records that the country of the Hailing Java, that's Japheth, bought Zenki slaves to the Chinese court during the Tang. You see that? The 8th year of the Huan He, 813 AD, Hailing offered 4 Zenki slaves. This account does not specify whether these slaves were dark-skinned local Southeast Asian slaves or Zenki slaves imported from East Africa by Arab traders. So when they were delivering us during the Tang, before that they were still transporting us from the 100 AD, because that's what we read, 2nd century, that's 100. All the way up to the Tang, Song, and Ming dynasty, the Arabs were dealing in slaves. So the later dynasties that came, like the Tang, the Song, and the Ming, there was already slave trade going on, but it was unofficial. It was officialized in 652 AD. Okay? But you can understand that that means that 600 years earlier, they were already dealing with slaves, with slave trade. The Arabs together with the Chinese. That's why the later kingdoms, they did not understand, okay, the Zanj and the Southeast Asian Kunlan slaves, are they the same people as those that are from East Africa? They were the same people. They just came earlier than them, okay? It says, this account does not specify whether these slaves were dark-skinned local Southeast Asian slaves or Zenchi slaves imported from East Africa by Arab traders. Even if the slaves were originally from East Africa, the Chinese may not have known where they came from and labeled them Zenchi simply because they had dark skin. Because these Chinese particular ones, they are talking about those of the what? Of the Tang, Song, and Ming dynasty. But he's not talking about the dynasties that came way before the Tang, the Tang, Ming, the Tang, Song, and Ming. Because the Arabs, they started dealing with slaves in the 2nd century AD. Okay, let me read this one. Although this work was published early in the Song dynasty, 960 to 1275, the anthology is compiled from the tales written during the Tang, thus reflecting Tang attitude and customs. The Taiping Guangji presents a curious mixture of Kunlan characters incorporating familiar images of black skin and the ability to dive deep into the sea. We was gifted swimmers. That's why now the thing is black people can't swim. So that's a lie, okay? Although these fantastic tales do not describe what actual black slaves did in China, we were slaves. We were building the Great Wall of China, okay? We were building their cities, you understand? And we were doorkeepers. These stories were widely read in the Tang. These recurring images of the Kunlan are significant because they reflect popular perceptions of people with dark skin rather than the views of a few historians or geographers, meaning what? Many of the people during those dynasties, they knew who he was. It says, on the 13 passages in the Taiping Guangji that mention the word Kunlan, 12 passages depict Kunlan characters, some of whom have black skin, some who have the appearance of a Kunlan, meaning of a black person, with curly hair and dark skin, black bodies as they call us, and others whose skin color is not mentioned. About half of the Kunlan characters are slaves. A soul tale refers to the Kunlan as a group of non-Chinese people and locates their homeland outside China, noting that they live in Annam, present-day Vietnam. Only one mention of Kunlan in the Taiping Guangji does not refer to people. A chapter on plants mentions that Emperor Yang 605 to 616 of the Sui dynasty, 589 to 618. This is before the Tang dynasty. Remember, the Tang dynasty started in 618. Okay? It says, change the name of the eggplant to Kunlan to Kunlan purple melon. So the eggplant, you see the eggplant, you ever seen an eggplant? They sell it in the Woolworths and ShopRites. You understand? You see eggplant is a purple, it's like a purple egg type of thing. It says they changed the name of the eggplant to Kunlan purple melon. You can't make this stuff up. Look at the insults, okay? Oh, they're going to pay for this thing. Praise the Lord for that thing. This section will discuss 5 representative stories that depict the Kunlan, revealing the range of characteristics of connotations 10 authors attached to people with dark skin. A common motif in the taping Guangji is the Kunlan's exotic appearance. Remember, they say we're exotic. I'll give an example. In the 60s, right, you had white women painting their lips red. You ever seen those old movies in the 60s? You see white women with pink, with red lips, lipstick. Anybody
Yes.
ever seen those movies?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
they call it blackface.
Yeah, blackface. But before the blackface goes into the Zwarte Piet in the Netherlands, okay? But what I want to show you is that the pink lips, the pink, when they were using pink, you know, your lipstick and all that, they were trying to imitate us because our features, we have better features than them. So now they started to do what? They started to imitate us by putting red lipstick on their lips so that what? It looks like, because they said, no, our pink lips, they look sexy and all of that. You just read the history of it. Okay? That's why they started doing that. And from that point on, Hollywood took that whole thing, and now they are doing that. You ever seen that movie, The Devil Wears Prada? There was a movie many years ago, The Devil Wears Prada. You see that woman? I forgot her name. Okay. Meryl Streep. I think it's Meryl Streep. That's how she was. You understand? With red lipstick and all that. It says the common motif in the taping Guangji is the Kunlan's exotic appearance, illustrated in the story of the character Mo Yune, a Kunlan with black skin. The tale opens with a poor woman's dream in which a foreign monk from the northwest. So the way they put our history, they make it seem like it's just some kind of a tale. No. This is real stuff. Presents her with an infant with a shiny black face and tells her that the child will be her son, who will someday achieve much and have great power. The woman gives birth to a son with skin like iron. That's us. The boy later meets the emperor, who was delighted and said, where did we possibly get this Kunlan boy? Meaning this black boy. The emperor was excited that the boy's surname, Mo, which means ink, corresponded with his appearance and dubbed him Mo Kunlan. The emperor also gave young Mo black clothes as a gift. You can't make this stuff up, okay? Just to compliment my black skin, give me black clothes here. The emperor was excited that the boy's surname Mo, the boy's surname Mo, which means ink, corresponded with his appearance. Meaning what? The way our black skin is as if like somebody just poured us with ink. They just poured ink on our skin. The emperor's automatic association of the word Kunlan with the boy's black skin assumes an audience familiar with the term. The non-Chinese monk and strangely shiny child evoke a sense of supernatural because they know black is power. People with dark skin must have been exotic based on emperor's jovial and surprised reaction to the boy. His gift of a black suit of clothes to match Mo's black skin. You see that thing? Suggest also a sense of humor on the part of the emperor. So this was a form, they were mocking us. They were mocking us. They are still doing it today through their movies and all that. But we're getting our flavor back. We're getting at the flavor back this day. The tale's conclusion offers a puzzling twist because Mo Kunlan proved a valiant fighter for the emperor and remained in the emperor's favor throughout his 40-year reign. He became a legend in his village. At that time in the villages, if someone bore a son whose appearance was black and ill-formed, many people would say he's not ugly. How do we know that one day he may not be as good as Mo Kunlan? So they were even making jokes about us. The narrator passes no judgment on Mo's appearance or skin color until the final line. If Mo's success can console mothers with ugly children, meaning black children are ugly children, perhaps Mo too can be considered ugly. You see that? That's why today our sisters, give me Proverbs 3:31. Not just our sisters, our brothers and sisters, this is what they do. Proverbs chapter 3 verse 31.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 3, verses 31.
Go ahead.
Envy thou not the oppressor, and choose none of his ways.
He says, don't envy your oppressor. Don't choose even the ways of the oppressor. Because guess what? They were mocking our black skin, our black lips, our flat noses, our curly hair, and all of that. And that's generation of brainwashing, witchcraft. So much so that now our brothers and sisters in the media and not in the media, they hate the way they look. They don't like their black skin. They say black is ugly, white is right. No, that's not what the Lord says. Okay, black is beautiful, you understand, and white is cursed. That's what the Lord teaches us. So, but these nations, what they do is, that's why the standard of beauty now, just look at the magazines. You see that series, The Fixer, I think the sister Kerry Washington, you see how she looks? Now she looks like a white woman. Even her stands and all of that. She don't look like a sister. She don't look like a Judith. She don't look like a Phoebe. She don't look like a Shifra and a Pua. She don't look like Sarah. No. She look like Meryl Streep. Why? Because of what the Chinese was doing also. Okay? So that's why they hate us, the Chinese. You see the way the Chinese treat our people? Okay?
I have received of the Lord that which also I delivered unto you, that the Lord Jesus, the same night in which he was betrayed, took bread, and when he had given thanks, he brake it and said, take, eat, this is my body, which is broken for you. This do in remembrance of me. After the same manner also he took the cup, and when he had supped, saying, this cup is the New Testament in my blood. This do ye as oft as ye drink it in remembrance of me. For as often as ye eat this bread and drink this cup, ye do show the Lord's death till he come. Wherefore, whosoever shall eat this bread and drink this cup of the Lord unworthily shall be guilty of the body and blood of the Lord. But let a man examine himself, and so let him eat of that bread and drink of that cup. For he that eateth and drinketh unworthily eateth and drinketh damnation to himself, not discerning the Lord's body. For this cause many are weak and sickly among you, and many sleep.
In the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, we pray. Amen.